illnesses. MEC Fast elaborates.
We remind all businesses to register before the deadline of the 28th of February 2025, and we applaud those who already registered. I'm happy that over 1,200 applications have been approved by the municipalities. This will assist the government to support this important sector of the economy better and to ensure that we preserve lives. We're also happy that at this stage, a total of 20 municipalities out of 26 have already adopted the standard bylaws to regulate the industry and ensure continued compliance with the regulation.
The City of Cape Town's fire and rescue services say the fire on Table Mountain has been largely contained, but a change in weather conditions may influence the situation. A fire ignited high on the slopes in Newlands over the weekend and made its way over the mountain saddle towards the Cape Town CBD last night. The Table Mountain aerial cableway has also been closed until further notice. Fire and rescue spokesperson Edward Bosch.
City of Cape Town Fire and Rescue Resources, as well as working on fire crews, national parks and volunteer wildfire services, are tending to active flare-ups and are endeavouring to keep the perimeter secured. 4 helicopters are still water bombing the fire line overhead, while ground crews are doing mopping up operations. No property damage or injuries have been reported at this stage.
The energy giant BP is to slash its renewable energy investments to instead focus on increasing oil and gas production. The energy giant will outline its strategy later following pressure from some investors who are unhappy that its profits and share price have been much lower than its rivals. The BBC's Simon Jack has the details.
5 years ago, BP set very ambitious targets to cut oil and gas and invest in renewables. It lowered its aims in 2023 and now is expected to abandon its oil and gas reduction target and confirm it's cutting investments in renewable energy by more than half. The company's boss is under pressure from some shareholders to boost profits, as BP has delivered half the returns seen by the owners of Shell, which has drastically cut its own green investments.
Recapping the top story, ANC spokesperson Mahlengi Bengu Mutsiri has denied reports that the reconfiguration embarked on by the organisation in Gauteng is imposing the newly appointed provincial task team on some branches in the province. I am on Delambara for SFM News headlines at 3:30.
And coming up in your sports this hour, new measures to curb fake football tickets, and Afghanistan post 325 for 7 in their 50 overs against England in Champions Trophy. More details at 3:30.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
Right, it's the month for secret admirers. I mean, the whole month of Feb, isn't it? But it's no secret that with Outsurance, you could save big on your car insurance premium. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 rands in cash. Make that 1,500 rands if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Monthly savings or cash in your pocket. SMS out to 30754. You got it? Out 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP, T's and C's online.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So wherever you may be, from Soweto to Swellendam Springs to Sunnyzof or Sandton to Sabi, welcome to the show. Welcome to the National Pulse, right? 3 hours of you and I engaging with the biggest issues that reflects the pulse of our nation. And it's a great privilege, really, for all of us to connect on this platform. So the question is, what for you moves the National Pulse. I certainly want to feel what you feel today. 086 0002032. Save that number to call in. You can WhatsApp as well, text or voice notes 0614 104 107. And then you have the third option to just tweet at 8 Many do that. Just tag us, SFM Radio, on the X platform and tag me, Ashraf Garda. First things first, we're going to talk about certainly an issue that should get your pulses racing, which is the issue of bullying. And bullying in schools in particular. I suppose you could talk about bullying elsewhere too, but in schools in particular. And there's an understanding that, just this year that I understand there's 548 cases of bullying that have been reported since the beginning of the academic year. And I'm just wondering whether that's correct. We'll find out, first of all, with Elijah Matlangu, the spokesperson for the Department of Basic Education. Good to connect with you once again, Elijah. Hi.
Ashraf, good afternoon. Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Thank you. So is this fact right? 548 cases of bullying reported for this academic year, which means like it's a month. Have I got that right?
Yeah, correct. It's 31 days since schools opened, and this is what provinces have given to us. So we work with what we get from them.
Sure. It's a crazy number, isn't it?
It is. It's shocking, concerning as well. But you recall that we have been seeing lots and lots of videos showing violence taking place within and outside school premises involving our learners in school uniform. We also got to hear that in the Western Cape there's even a channel which has some 32,000 people where they share videos of school fights. So you can see that it's out there, and we're talking only about reported incidents and those that were captured on video. What about everything else that we don't get?
And there has to be more, because there are many others that don't go reported. We know that. How do you, from an education point of view, how do you define then bullying in schools? Is it simply bullying in schools, or you define it as, let's call it a crime? Do you define it as that and get treated likewise?
Well, it wouldn't be a crime. Strictly speaking, because if that were to be the case, then it means that we'd have hundreds, if not thousands, of cases reported to the police that they would be dealing with. So we choose to deal with it differently. We work with the parents of the affected learners, whether you're the bully or the victim, to try find ways to resolve these matters in a way that will not escalate to become police cases. We try, from even a curriculum point of view, to teach them positive values, respect for self, respect for others, and that they need to relate well to each other. That's why we've been running this campaign from the beginning of the year, to encourage parents to talk to their children about how they should relate with their peers in school. But we know that it's also influenced by drugs and substance abuse and other things that the young people are consuming. Also, the conflicts that start out there in the streets, they bring them to school because they know it's compulsory that everyone will be in school, so they are going to find you there and deal with you. So that is what is happening. But the most important thing here is that parents must be involved, because we believe it starts in the home. The way a learner will treat a teacher, to us, is an indication of what that learner can do to any other adult, because it means they don't view an adult as a person of authority.
So then, regarding, the broader issue of bullying in schools, would you say that, and I'm talking about the education system here, because there's a difference between the learner in school versus the learner at home, right? So in the school precincts, right, would you say that our education system is, at this point in time, unable to deal with bullying, and therefore you're getting the frequency that we have right now?
No, it would be an error to expect only the education system to deal with social matters. Like I'm saying, if there are gangsters that are formed in the streets and their members are in school and a fight breaks out in school, it's difficult for the teachers to deal with it when the parents are not involved. Because when we suspend your child, he or she comes back to stay at home with you while we continue the investigation. And when the disciplinary process takes place, you are expected to be involved and come to school. So the school teaches you in the curriculum that you shouldn't do this. It does so consistently in terms of an education and a mindset change point of view. But it cannot be the only side that is doing the work.
But
there has to be a strong partnership between the home and the school so that the learner can see that there's no space for games. You just need to do the right thing all the time.
But I mean, isn't the point that you're just saying, and I hear what you're saying, doesn't that confirm, in fact, that the education system or department is actually, in fact, unable to deal with the issues of bullying exclusively, and therefore it does need the help of parents because they must take the greatest share of the load on that issue, as opposed to saying we expect you to deal with it alone. In fact, you're conceding that you can't deal with it on your own. It's a bigger problem than that, and it has to go back to the homes.
Ashraf, if you look at the school safety framework and you look at the number of stakeholders listed there, they come to about 11. When you look at community leaders, traditional leaders, religious leaders, parents, FGBs, teacher unions, everyone else who's there, they need to express themselves strongly on these matters, not just education, just like we are doing now. It is not okay that is just me talking. You also need to get the teacher unions. You also need to get parent organizations. You also need to get religious leaders. What are they teaching every weekend on Sunday when they preach? Who are they preaching to? Because the people that come there, go to the youth services and whatever programs they have, are the same ones that are also called on to come forward to be disciplined for violent behavior in school. So we all have to work together. It is correct. Not one stakeholder is able to resolve this matter.
Do I take it, therefore, that the problem of bullying does not seem to be going away? I mean, I certainly experienced bullying when I was a lightie in school a long time ago, but it just seems like it's so much more severe now and so much more violent, where things that what we call bullying was you can't compare that to the two now. They're unheard of, right? The point I want to make is that, do we see this on the rise to the point that no matter what the interventions are, and I understand your good intentions, right, that it's almost like crime in South Africa. It's a losing battle that requires something far more than just saying, parents, look after your children. It needs something more dramatic than that.
Yeah, but it really starts in the home. Because the first lesson of whatever type, whether you start walking, start talking, start writing, whatever you start, it starts in the home. So it's the values that are there instilled in the children in the home. That which you are brought up with is what you are going to exhibit elsewhere. So we need to place the responsibility where it belongs. We need to work together. You're right, but the influence of social media as well, where people know that they're being filmed, it exacerbates the type of behavior that is exhibited by these learners. You are correct. The level of violence and the way in which the cruelty of it is just shocking. We believe that social media also has an influence, but we believe also that increased reporting is what is also taking place. We encourage our schools, we encourage more learners to report, and that's why you're seeing an improvement as well. It could be that it has increased, it could be that it remained the same, but more reports now are coming through. But we believe with more reports, we are now able to come up with other interventions that are required. But what is important is that every stakeholder needs to be actively involved so that we begin to see the difference.
I'm reading a quote directly from you where you're saying, it cannot be right that schools are expected to be the only places where bullying must be addressed. Do you get a sense that the expectation from parents and other stakeholders is that the only place where bullying must be addressed must be the education department and schools? Do you get that sense that everybody expects the schools to sort it out?
Absolutely, strongly so. And the reason I'm saying that is that in many cases, when a child has brought drugs to school or they've done something, maybe beaten another learner, and you call some parents, they are quick to defend their child on that phone call where you are reporting this to them, asking them to come to school to attend this matter. Someone else will say, no, deal with it there. This thing didn't happen here at home. Deal with it that happened there at school. What did they do to him or what did they do to her for her to be provoked in the manner that she has? So find a way to sort it out there. And I'm talking here about real life situations which I have personally been involved in, where we work with the police, we go to the schools, we conduct searches, we find knives, we find guns, we find drugs, we find all sorts of things that shouldn't be in school. And when the school calls the parents, what you see there is something extremely concerning.
Okay.
So that's why we are saying that it really starts in the home. And for those parents, by the way, and they are good examples, they are good examples of schools where they encourage parents to come to school to talk about, one, the academic performance of the learner, and two, the behavior of the child in school, how they conduct themselves when they are within school premises. And when the child sees that the parent is actively involved, closing the gap for mischief, to see that child beginning to do the right thing.
Two things before I let you go. I mean, Dr. Shaida Omar from the Teddy Bear Clinic made the point about, that bullying is a reflection of the it's interconnected in many ways, centered around socio-economic issues in our country, right? I'm not going to ask you to answer that because I think that's one part of it. But here's the point, right? Besides the parents and other responsibilities, what's the position in schools? So right now, if there are acts of bullying in schools, what happens to these learners, the bullies that is, right? What are the deterrents that are being put in place in the schoolyard for them? And the second part, if you can answer this in one go, what about the issues of emotional and mental support for those who are victims of bullying, all in school I'm talking about?
No, you're correct. So here's the other complication. Some of these learners, they do violence in school because violence is what they are used to from home. GBV cases and broken family structures where these learners are not used to an organized family unit where there will be someone taking care of them and supporting them actively. So when you suspend them, because if the parents don't come through or based on the circumstances, you then suspend the child. You're basically saying for the next 14 days, you're going to be sitting at home with your caregiver or your parent. But you find that parent takes that, or even that child takes that as leave from school. They do nothing. They put no measures in place to discipline the learners further, to make them realize that what they've done is wrong, so that when they go back to school, they show remorse and show some reform. So without that support from home, yes, at school we'll support, we'll bring our psychosocial support for victims. Sometimes if it's an expulsion as a form of protection to other learners, we remove that learner to another school. We still have a responsibility, unfortunately, to ensure that even the perpetrator has a right to education. We'll take them to another school, but sometimes even when you do that, they continue with their violent behavior even in the other school, which means we are only treating the symptoms because the root cause is home.
Yeah,
where you
point
expect
taken.
them to be addressed and assisted, but it doesn't.
All right,
happen.
that's where we can leave it. Elijah Mhlanga, the spokesperson for the Department of Basic Education. Well, here's a broad question to all of us, right? Seriously, there's no question that bullying is unacceptable in schools and appears to become even more violent by the day. So when you get the numbers of 548 cases of bullying being reported in this academic year, we're talking of like less than a month. It's frightening. Just do the maths, divide by the amount of school days we've had so far. What needs to be done? And I'm talking about solutions. What are the serious solutions that we can pass on to the Department of Education? Because at this point in time, sadly, it's a losing battle. This is the National Pulse.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation.
So, 47-year-old Abner loves our insurance essential. Why? Well, because it's low-cost insurance made for older cars. You got that? So, for his 2006 Opel Corsa Utility 1.4, he only pays 253 rands a month. With Outsurance Essential, accident claims are paid in cash, so you can choose the panel beater you want to use. Now top this up with a motor warranty which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get savings with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rands. SMS CAR to 43187, that's CAR 43187 today. Licensed insurer in FSP, T's and C's and information online.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, let's get to our global watch now. And we focus on the Sudan region. There's been you may be aware of it, the RSF, which is the Rapid Support Forces. They've recently signed a political charter to establish a parallel government. The words are important. A political charter to establish a parallel government to the existing government in the Sudan with allied political and armed groups. Now, remember, the RSF have been fighting for control of the country since April 2023, so that 2-year period, and I think the country, as a result of that, utterly destroyed. So let's understand what has been happening, what needs to happen now. Ibrahim Dean, as always, is with us as an independent researcher and political commentator on that region. Ibrahim, appreciate your time and thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So I made a point, this has been ongoing now for 2 years. This latest move of a parallel government, would that be a move towards peace or a move towards even greater divisions and even a greater outbreak of war?
So it's actually it's called a parallel government of peace, but it's actually ironically signed in actual fact to try and carry on or prolong the war. What has happened in recent weeks and months is that the Sudanese army has been gaining quite a lot of territory. It just took over the strategic area of Wad Medani. It's been making advances in Khartoum. Still not enough to actually totally militarily be victorious. But the RSF has been on the back foot for the past 3 to 4 months, especially now as Hamiti and et al. Have been accused of genocide, and so in an attempt to try and gain face and remain at the helm, there's been this formation of this parallel government, which took place in Kenya. Largely backed by the countries like the UAE, and the idea is that this parallel government will then give these outside powers a way of actually funding the RSF without saying that they're funding the RSF, but saying that they're funding this parallel government. So it's actually a method of prolonging the war, not necessarily starting.
So in whose interest is it that the war is prolonged? I mean, who wins in a battle like that?
So the RSF, the conflict now has metastasized to such an effect that both Hamiti and Burhan can't really remain in power unless by force. So that's one of the who would stay in power. But also these outside countries such as the UAE, see Sudan's wealth, its gold mines, also its strategic port. Countries like Ethiopia, especially in relation to the Nile, and border conflicts that has happened between the two countries in the recent past. These countries do benefit from a Sudan in conflict, and also the UAE is very opposed to anything that it deems Islamist or perceived as Islamist in the government. So these countries want to prolong the conflict. The government would, this parallel government is, would have totally been a footnote until the SPLM North Hilu faction joined it on Sunday as well, one of the guarantors of this, or one of the signatories of this charter. And this does then mean that, this parallel government does have access to the Ethiopian, the Chadian, and the Libyan borders, which will allow for, continued arms smuggling, basically prolonging the conflict.
So as we talk about this, and as you said, this parallel government of national unity, I think the word GNU also comes in, national unity and peace, right? What's the state of this country right now? I mean, just to remind us, what battle lines were drawn 2 years ago. What were the battle lines fought over?
No, I mean, in the start it was just a conflict over power between two generals. But what has happened to Sudan, and that's the unfortunate problem is that, we see this as a geopolitical contest, military conflicts, contest between two generals. Meanwhile, on the ground, there's tens of millions, struggling from severe hunger. 5 areas have been declared, as having experienced famine as of January. Tens of thousands dead. I think 9 million, internally displaced, 2 million displaced around the region. It's as the African Union called the world's worst humanitarian crisis, and it's not helped by the fact that the Trump cuts have meant that 80% of food aid has actually been stopped or severely slowed down because of the USAID cuts. So on the ground, the situation is worsening, and there is reports of understandable, justifiable accusations of genocide, ethnic cleansing, crimes against humanity, and we're seeing rape, starvation, food being used as weapons of war. And unfortunately, the more the conflict endures, the ethnic cleavages, the different cleavages in that conflict become metastasized, and it just becomes almost impossible then to see a Sudan the way it was before the conflict.
And when you talk about a humanitarian crisis, do you have the numbers or the data to tell us just what type of crisis? What has happened to the people in terms of them being displaced?
So the UN reports and the International Organization for Migration reports about 11 million displaced, 9 million internally, 2 million abroad. That's the largest displacement crisis in the world. They talk about 24 million, which is basically around between half and 60% of the population are severely food insecure. 5 areas of famine, hundreds of thousands not having access to clean water, not helped by the fact that the harvesting season and the planting season was marred by violence. So it's going to become even worse. There's a spiral effect. And the conflict is it is getting worse. And, it was one of the conflicts that, you'd have thought, because most of the main global powers were on the same side, would have been easily solvable. But, regional powers, coupled with the fact that there hasn't been much publicity of the conflict, especially globally, has meant that, no one really knows or is following the conflict and actually knows what is going on.
So what then is the role of the African Union in this? And you can answer this as well. What role has South Africa played, if any?
So, the African Union, in a sense, has been, calling for solutions. But, at the end of the day, Sudan is a North African country, and the Arab League has had a bigger impact. So the African Union as an institution has been superseded by that of the Arab League and the UN. Now, in the Arab League itself, the more stronger states, Saudi Arabia, for example, have had more power and prerogative, and so that's why we had what we'd call the Jeddah negotiations, trying to call for a ceasefire. But regional powers, or such as the UAE, funding the RSF, for example, Turkey funding the Sudanese army, have resulted in the consequence, in the sense that there's been no peace negotiations. South Africa had initially tried to play a role. South Africa has called for a peaceful negotiation or peaceful solution to the conflict. However, this position has been weakened as we were talking about a few months ago. President Ramaphosa in early 2024 had Hamiti in South Africa. And that was seen as, calling for negotiations. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you look at it, Hamiti has been accused of genocide. And, that actually then, one, weakens South Africa's credibility, especially, it's seen as taking sides and not being fully neutral, but also, in a conflict, you do not want to necessarily have closer relations or be seen as close to the person accused of genocide. So South Africa, in that sense, has much less power than it had, for example, in the conflict down south, where it played the biggest role, or one of the biggest roles, in solving the conflict in South Sudan.
Ebrahim Deen, let's leave it at that. Ebrahim Deen is a political commentator, and based upon that conversation with him, perhaps let me put this to you. There's a humanitarian crisis. The numbers are shocking, right? Over 10 million people displaced, 2 million out of the country. What do we need to do about it? What can be done about the Sudan? Let's get to the news headlines. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. In the news headlines, the South African Police Service says it has a shortage of sniffer dogs within its K9 unit. The unit is responsible for the training of the dogs for police work, including patrols and sniffer duties. ANC spokesperson Mahlengi Bengu Mutsiri has denied reports that the reconfiguration embarked on by the organization in Gauteng is imposing the newly appointed provincial task team on some branches in the province. And US President Donald Trump has said American taxpayers will get more than the sum given in aid to Ukraine after the two countries agreed on a deal to access Ukraine reserves of critical minerals. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, Gautrain Bus has limited bus services, which have resumed to all stations except Sandton, Rhodesbank and Rhodesfield. The M2 eastbound is queuing towards Joe Slovo Drive, and Christian de Wet Road southbound has delays towards Dolphin Street. In KZN, the M4 northbound has ramp closure with no access to Victoria Embankment. On the M4, a mudslide reported near Westbrook Circle, and Milky Way Street has mudslides reported between Marion Hill Saps and the taxi rank. In Cape Town, the N1 inbound is slow moving on the elevated freeway. The M3 inbound is slow moving towards Hospital Bend, and Table Mountain is closed due to fire on Table Mountain. And Baden-Powell Drive has sand reported on the carriageway at Monwabisi, so proceed with caution. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Okay, to me, so there's less action on the field, but there's action off the field that concerns what happens on the field. I'm talking about the FNB Stadium and other games in football,
You're
right?
confusing people.
I know.
A very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Yes, we start things off with football. It seems now football fans will now be able to buy football match tickets through WhatsApp. This is after Stadium Management South Africa announced a new ticketing vendor, Open Ticket, in a bid to curb fraudulent fake tickets. Stadium Management South Africa CEO Bertie Grobler had previously said that till slip tickets purchased under the previous vendor, Ticket Pro, was one of the biggest contributors to the fake ticket program, and now it will be discontinued.
For the first time ever at a sporting event or sporting venues, the fans and spectators will also be able to purchase tickets via WhatsApp. So this is, if I can call it, a hybrid of digital and outlet purchases. The process to purchase is extremely easy. You can, any card, you can pay via Zapper, you can pay via the Capitec app, and you can also purchase via One Voucher. And I understand that there's more than 7,000 One Voucher vendors in and around Soweto and the venues we manage. The process to purchase these tickets will be available on the website of the two clubs.
Meanwhile, Kaizer Chiefs players have lauded the club for taking the team out on a team-building exercise at Swartkops Raceway yesterday ahead of the Betway Premiership clash against Mamelodi Sundowns on Saturday. The two teams lock horns at the Lucas Moripe Stadium in Atteridgeville in their third meeting this season. And Chiefs coach Nasruddin Nabi says that after that 4-1 drubbing they suffered against Supersport United, they needed something special like this.
Yes, honestly, it's a big opportunity for myself, because you lose is a very bad result the last game, and before a big game with Sundowns, we have Toyota offer in the team this opportunity when team building day is very, very important. I observed this in the face of the player today. After this, the player is very, very happy, and this action helped me too much before the game of Sundowns.
Then moving on to cricket, Afghanistan posted 325 for 7 in their 50 overs against England in the Champions Trophy after winning the toss and electing to bat first. Ibrahim Zadran top scored with 177 off 146 balls, with Jafra Archer taking 3 wickets. England currently sitting on 19 for no loss after 3 overs. They need 307 runs in 46 overs to win. In terms of the permutations, or England, on the other hand, they need a win in terms of today's game and the one against South Africa at the weekend in order to qualify for the semi-finals, with Afghanistan also needing a win today and against Australia on Friday for a semi-spot. And if you're wondering about the Proteas, a win for South Africa in their final match against England will put them into the last 4, as 5 points is maximum a team can get in the group. They could still qualify even if they lose on Saturday, should Afghanistan beat England today. So we're crossing fingers that Afghanistan wins today's one. But moving on to tennis, Barbara Krejcikova has withdrawn from next month's tournaments at Indian Wells and Miami due to a back injury that has kept her out of the action since November. The world number 16, who is a surprise champion at the All England Club last year, sustained the injury during the tour's Asian swing of tournaments and appeared hampered by it at the WTA finals in Riyadh, where she reached the semi-finals. In the meantime, Emma Raducanu has been granted additional protection by the organizers of the Indian Wells Open, which includes the provision of a former U.S. Secret Service agent to oversee her safety. If the 22-year-old tennis star competes at Indian Wells next week, her security will be managed by a retired U.S. Secret Service agent. Concerns about Raducanu's safety have escalated after she became the target of a fixated behavior by an individual during the Dubai Championships last week. On that note, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next
What do you
hour.
think of this WhatsApp system? Huh?
It's very interesting. I guess the one thing that Robla did say is that they were trying to figure out how to best reach out to more football fans.
And WhatsApp does that?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see this further reaction on that. Okay, thanks for that, Tumi. We'll talk about the ANC next.
In business, a rand saved is a rand earned. And almost 100,000 businesses trust OUTsurance.
We in the eye care industry, we're saving over 1,200 rand a month. To all the business owners, you've got nothing to lose by giving OUTsurance a chance to quote on your business insurance. It's true to say that you always get something out with OUTsurance.
For your business insurance, contact OUTsurance to see how much your business could save. SMS quote to 43328 for immediate cover, or visit outsurance.co.za today. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Fizzy drinks and fruit juices can make our children sick. Sugar is dumped into their bodies with every sip, which could lead to obesity, heart disease, and diabetes as they age. We must protect them from drinks high in sugar. Demand a stricter health promotion levy now. Sign the petition on heala.org. That's HEALA.org.
Day 15. Location undisclosed. Mood brave. Music Eye of the Tiger. Dear Diary, it's been 2 weeks of epic challenges against some of the most memorable and epic Survivor contestants. I have endured some harsh weather conditions, unbelievable drama, and these fire tokens have given me and the other contestants a second chance to stay in the game. Food. I feast on the defeat of my enemies. Vumi over there is busy planning and scheming, thinking that he can get me off the island. Never mind though. I will win this and take home $2 million. We're gonna be rich, Papa.
Rich Scoopy Wanabonani, are you doing that thing again? Come and get your dinner, Mr. Fake Diary Sessions. We're now on Survivor. Oh, the world will fall.
Catch Survivor Season 40, Winners at War. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Starts 27 February on S3. Open up.
With Ford's Blue Sky offers, get a new Ranger XL from just $5,899 per month, including our optional service plan, only when financed through Ford Credit. 10% deposit, prime list 4.75%, 40% residual. Visit your trusted Ford dealer today for Blue Sky offers, where our Ford Family Guarantee comes standard. Limited time offer while stocks last. Ford Credit is a registered credit provider and an authorized financial services provider. T&Cs apply.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
So the ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula has been addressing the media in Midrand, and that relates very much to, that whole reconfiguration of the ANC in the Gauteng region, following up on what has happened with the ANC in KZN, as you know, right? So in terms of that, the top six, we've got the names now. It's the convener is Amos Masondo, the co-convener is Panyaza Lusufi, the deputy convener is Ntombe Mechwe, the provincial coordinator is Hope Papo, and the provincial deputy coordinator is Nomanto Nkomo Ralehoko. That's the six as we see it. We will certainly try and get some reaction and further comment and commentary on that in the ensuing few hours of this show. But certainly I'll open it up to you as well. If you want to give me your thoughts on that, you can certainly do so. One more name that's missing from that list that I gave you, provincial fundraiser, is Tasneem Motara. So that's that group of the ANC that runs it. I know the Secretary General said that this is not a punitive measure for the showing of the ANC in Gauteng in that last election. Right, but you have a thought on that? I'm sure you do. 086 000 2032. WhatsApp, text or voice notes 0614 104 107. You can raise any issue you want. I mean, what for you moves the National Pulse?
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
I tell you what, the one thing, whatever you may think about other ideological issues, that one thing that absolutely affects businesses in townships immediately and directly and imminently has got to be the issues of spaza shops being registered. Now, we know the deadline for that registration is February 28th, so is that Friday? That is Friday. Let's, we've had different communication about this. Let's get the thoughts of what's happening in the Free State region with Ketso Makume, who's the Free State MEC for Finance, Economic Development and Tourism. MEC, appreciate your time. You're now live on the National Pulse.
Afternoon, Ashra, and to your listeners.
Thank you. Right, so you're virtually on deadline day. Give me the numbers. I mean, how many businesses, as you know it, have registered so far, and what do you think? How many more still needs to be registered?
Okay, I can only confirm those that have registered. I will not know about those that are still going to register, because I don't know who's still going to register, because also the deadline has not yet come. Mm-hmm. So far, we've got 7,521. Majority of those that have registered are coming from the district of Thabo Mofutshane and Fezile Dabi, with 2,069 and 2,016 respectively, then followed by Mangaung Metro, which is 1,653, and Lejolputswa, which is 1,366, and then Kharib District also 417. Remember, Asra, that one reason why we wanted people to register is because we did not have that information or that data. So that is why it is going to be difficult for me to concretely confirm that this is the number that is remaining. But at least this number is so much appreciated because of the work that we have done and also of the inspections that we have undertaken.
All right. I mean, that's understandable, right? But I mean, do you, and I'm not going to hold you to it, but do you have a sense of, like, if there's 7,500 registered now, that, is that 50%? Is that 80%? I mean, I know it's not perfect. That's why we know that later on. What are your expectations? How many more still outstanding?
From those who have been doing work on the ground, they were saying they are sure that this number, it could be 80% of those that were operating illegal in terms of the inspections that they have been doing. But, Asra, what could happen? Somebody might decide that I'm not going to register either because I don't have the documents that are needed, or I don't want to operate legal. There are people who are consciously saying we are not going to operate legal. We want this kind of informal, illegal business that we have been doing.
All right, so let's get this right. In terms of the number you gave me, 7,521, are they now businesses that have now registered, or they've just applied? They've registered to apply.
Okay.
What's the process?
These ones are the ones that have registered to apply. The number of applications that we have so far approved out of that number is 641. One of the critical things that we really need to look at, or we are still looking at, is the issue of people that are fronting. Number two, the fraudulent processes of those that their IDs have been used either without their knowledge or with their consent, but the businesses does not really belong to them. So that is why the process of approving application is going to be slower than the process of applying. Because when you apply, you just come to the fore, either to the municipality or the economic development centers in all the municipalities that we have identified, and then those that we are bringing with those documents that are applicable, it's going to be easy for you to be accepted.
Okay.
But the problem is going to be the approval.
All right. But do I take it?
We're doing due diligence.
Okay. Do I take it that while they've applied, no matter how long that takes, 1 week, 1 month, 6 months, they will be okay to trade because they've applied, right? Is that correct? And what happens to those who have now not registered, not applied, nothing after the February 28th deadline?
Look, in the Free State, we've got our own act, the Free State Integrated Business Support and Licensing and Regulations Act, number 2 of 2024. What is going to happen to people who have not applied? We are going to close those businesses. But these ones, they will be able to operate, but there is still going to be a process of verification that leads to approval. But at least they will be able to operate because at least they have applied.
And when you close these businesses, I mean, do I take it, A, will they be closed forever, or they closed so long as they do apply? So, for example, they don't apply by February 28th, they're going to be closed. But let's say come the 5th of March, they do apply. Then they'd be reopened. Is that correct?
That's correct. The most important is that people must be registered. We can't have this thing of everyone doing as they like without being complying with the laws of this country and without also complying with the bylaws of municipalities. So the most important thing is to push people for them to apply. Also, for government to help them, because we've got those starter packs that can help individual small businesses around. But we are unable to do that because these people, they are so informal, they have not applied, they don't even have registered business certificates.
Let's go back to why it all started. What was the reason behind the need to register these sponsor shops in the first place? And when all is done and dusted, how will this change the business trading terrain of your province?
Okay. The most important thing was to deal with lawlessness. There's no country that can accept that businesses should operate unlawfully without having followed the laws of the country. But the second thing, there was that outcry about illicit products in the shelves, the products that have expired, but also because there are some serious issues that some of the businesses, they are not selling the stuff that they have said they are going to sell. Some of the people, they even sell drugs. I've got pictures and videos that were sent to me just yesterday of a shop where people have found that indeed there are food stuff here, but there are also drugs. So we are able to manage those things because when we inspect, we are going to inspect as per the registration that I have said I'm going to open a saloon. So when we go and investigate your shop and we found that your shop does not only trade on saloon, but trades on other things, then we'll be able to close it. So it helps both the businesses, but it also helps ourselves.
Okay.
But also for government to support this SMME because we are unable to support these people because they are unregistered.
Okay.
So this is a number of multiple of reasons why we have entered into this thing.
All right. Lastly, help us with this. I mean, we're talking about, by and large, South African citizens who have not registered. What about foreign nationals who are residing in this country, who have sponsor shops? What is their position?
Look, the act in the Free State, it says that people must have documents that allows them to be here. So for foreign nationals who will then operate without documentations, that does not put them here. And those documentation must be clear that you are here because you are going to do business. You are here because you are coming for investment. It must not be for something different. So those shops, they will be closed because they are not following the compliance laws of this country. So what we need to do is to ensure that everyone that applies has the documents that are needed. So even foreign nationals, they all have the set of documents that are needed from them. So if they don't have them, they will be closed.
Okay, got that. Well, lots to consider over all of that. Ketso Makume, thank you for your time. The Free State MEC for Finance, Economic Development and Tourism. And you know this, not just in the Free State, but around the country. That deadline to turn spaza shops into real shops happens on the February the 28th.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting. Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
V up your February with great value deals from Vodacom Business. Meet the new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra featuring integrated Galaxy AI. Get it on a Red Business 1.5 gig plan for only 1,539 Rand per month over 24 months. Enhance your deal. Add 69 Rand extra per month and get the Samsung Galaxy Watch 7 eSIM. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together. Vodacom Business.
Dr. Nikki Alexander, Dr. Thomas Chamberlain, and Dr. Jack Hodgson form a dedicated team of forensic pathologists who try to work out how and why the victim died. This series sees Nikki investigate a murder that's a carbon copy of a case from her past. She soon suspects that the killings are personal to her. But who will believe her? Meanwhile, Jack creates tension when he finds himself aligned with a police complaints investigator over the accidental shooting of a girl by armed police. And a seemingly random killing in the remote countrysides leads Nikki and Jack into the dangerous underbelly of a criminal world. This is Silent Witness, Thursdays and Fridays at 10 p.m. Starts 20 February only on S3. Open up.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
All right, so we talk every day about, what is it that moves the national pulse, but as we talk about those issues, we also get to your thoughts and I'd like to know, what does your pulse tell you today? So let's get to, Fireman in Polokwane. Hello, Fireman.
Yes, Ashraf, how are you?
I'm very good indeed. Go for it. What's your point?
I want to talk about this bullying. I think that, the Department of Education must come up with a system whereby they introduce, for instance, where a student is found guilty of bullying they deduct some marks, or they don't allow him to come to school, or they don't allow him to be accepted, and as a sort of a deterrent as well. You see?
Okay, don't you think that's happening already? I don't have the full story, but don't you think that's happening already?
Yes. Bullying is happening. It is there. My niece has been in Limpopo, a few weeks ago. You see?
Okay. All right. Got that, Fireman. Let's look at more thoughts on that issue too. The interesting part from the spokesperson for basic education, they made the point that what they may do is if a bully has been reported as bullying and has called on the parents now to come to the school and the parents don't come because that happens often, they may not allow the learner in school until the parents come to a meeting to address that issue. Now that makes a lot of sense because at some stage the parent has to take greater responsibility. After all, they're the ones that registered their own children in those schools, isn't it? It can't just be left can't be left alone because clearly that's not the right way to do things. Now there's further comments on bullying.
Afternoon, Ashraf, Mono in Cape Town. Ashraf, you're asking the solution to the bullying. Bring back corporal punishment. Children have lost morality because of lack of corporal punishment. Thank you so much.
It's amazing how many people say that in our days, they used to give us, that phrase, 6 of the best. Have you ever been on the receiving end of a 6 of the best? I have. I can tell you now, you never forget it. And it certainly keeps you in line. Now, we know in the new democracy, or our democracy, a lot changed from corporal punishment issues and also in terms of hangings, which was then barred, right? Is there a school of thought that says we need to relook at that? Because currently, whatever has been told to these learners, it's not stopping them, isn't it, from carrying out their acts of bullying and then on a broader level, the issues of crime in South African society.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Mqede here in Kala. Ashraf, school hasn't started in 1994. There were schools pre-1994, and the children were disciplined. Why everything is blamed on parents here since 1994? everything that goes wrong is blamed on parents. We were disciplined. Children were disciplined before 1994. Thanks, Ashraf.
Okay, thanks for that. But you see, I don't think it's the blame. It's holding the parents responsible, because can you then blame the school? Can you blame the teachers? Can you blame them for that? Whereas they're saying our job is to teach. It's actually not to instill in them a sense of morality, isn't it? Matebe in Middleburg, let's get your thoughts. Hello.
Yeah, good day, Ashraf.
Yeah, good day. Go ahead.
Yes. The issue of bullying. Let's say if now I advise my niece, if someone bullies you and there's other learners who observe that one, go and open an assault case. How is it going to be to the parents of that bully child to have a criminal record?
Well, I mean, that would be terrible, obviously. Yeah.
Yes, you see. So now, that's the reason why the SGB must have some sort of measures at school. The troubled kids. It's not like they don't know these kids. They know them.
I think the problem with the schools and the SGBs, I think they are completely snowed under with things. Their classes are too big, they're under-resourced, so they can't deal with it. Somebody else has to deal with the issues of bullying in schools and link between them and the parents. I know the school's there, but I don't think they can do much more than what they're doing right now. That's what I think anyway. Thanks for that thought, Matebe. And we are looking at solutions. I mean, seriously, can we deliver a solution to the Department of Basic Education, and we can say, hold it, we found the solution here on the National Pulse, because we put out a call to people from around the country. As I've said earlier on, whether you're in Soweto or Swellendam or Springs or Sunnyshof, we've put that thought out to you, and people have come up with some really fantastic solutions. So can we give them the blueprint? I don't know, right? Let's see. Here's another comment about another organization looking for their own solutions.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is Makwarela Shinyazo from Pendo. You know what, Ashraf? This AfriForum's information campaign threatens our democracy. I wonder why are they being allowed to get away with all what they are doing there? Why is our government folding arms? Apart from opening the 3 zoners case against them, they should also ban their passport. This group is spreading lies across the world, and our government is letting them to do what they are doing. Recently, they were in USA telling Trump to sanction all the ANC leaders here in South Africa. What is that?
Okay, well, there we are. Another thought on that. And the AfriForum team currently are in the USA, by the way, and others too, okay? Speaking to some high-ranking officials, not the president, I believe.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. You're speaking to Tshidiso George Matekane from Botswana in the Free State. The ANC continues to even confuse themselves. They are trying to be smart to their constituency by trying to come up with each and every terminology that they can use, not to show or not to prove to their people that they are losing it. That's not reconfiguration, whatever they call it. They disbanded those ANC whatsoever in KwaZulu-Natal and in Gauteng. They mustn't come with their English here and try to confuse people. They must just accept that they're doing bad, and they keep on nominating and electing those old Madalas who has been failing and are still failing. But let them wait until next year.
Oh, goodness. Well, we're going to play some of the sound from that ANC press conference with Fikile Mbalula coming up shortly. But here's the last one before I get to the news.
Ashraf, goeiemiddag. Floris hier so van die Weskaap. Ashraf, yeah, I think WhatsApp, it's the most affordable, accessible form of media, how people can access their tickets. But there's one thing that we need to work on as South Africans, especially when the big 3 is playing, is getting fans in on time. We need to figure out a way how we can draw them to come in closer. And so many things has been tried, but we need to come up with something, man. Maybe people know how to draw fans in so that they can be seated earlier. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Well, there we are. Thank you so much. Well, I'll tell you what, there's no question WhatsApp has got to be the most used app in the world. That's what I think, isn't it? It's like it's a channel. Everything else you do is channeled through WhatsApp. Think about that. Let's get the news now. It's 4 o'clock.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories at 4. Mbalula announces ANC's reconfigured Gauteng leadership and government urged to declare hunger and national emergency. For SAFM News, I am Onde Lambana and a very good afternoon. The ANC has announced a reconfigured Gauteng leadership structure. It says the move is part of the party's path to renewal. ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula announced the Gauteng Provincial Task Team just a day after announcing a reconfigured leadership structure in KwaZulu-Natal. He says the decision to reconfigure the leadership was not a punitive measure for losing elections, but based on the party's constitution.
The Gauteng Provincial Task Team inaugurated here today. It is led as co-conveners by Comrade Amos Masondo and co-provincial convener Comrade Panyaza Lusufi and a deputy provincial convener Comrade Ntombi Mikhwe and provincial coordinator Comrade Hope Papo and provincial deputy coordinator Nomantu Ralehoko Nkomo and provincial fundraiser Tasnim Mutara. They will be supported by a working committee.
The South African Police Service says it has a shortage of sniffer dogs within its K9 unit. The unit is responsible for the training of the dogs for police work, including patrols and sniffer duties. SAPS management told the Portfolio Committee on Police that the current batch of dogs in the police force is aging and it is not of good quality for modern security standard. Head of the K9 unit at SAPS, Duncan Scott, says the reason they do not have enough stock is because the breeding program, which was meant to produce female dogs for mating, was shut down some years ago.
We do have a problem within the SAPS in the provision of animals. We've got more handlers than we've actually got dogs to issue. This is, if I just go back in the history, this is the cause of this, is SAPS used to have its own strong breeding program. There was an outbreak of a disease which actually caused that breeding program to be shut down. So we started to look at procuring. The criteria for the procuring, however, showed that it was difficult to get dogs on hand. Point in case, the consultants that have been procuring on behalf of the SAPS through the procurement processes, the last batch of dogs that were imported from the Netherlands for us, 29 of the 30 dogs were found not to be suitable when tested through for hip dysplasia, etc. So this is problematic for us. This was the third batch of dogs brought into South Africa, and it seems the quality has been deteriorating as we go.
The Gauteng Department of Health has frozen the salaries of 66 employees as part of efforts to eliminate ghost workers from its payroll. This move is part of the province-wide Ziveze Reveal Yourself campaign launched in October last year. The campaign aims to curb wasteful expenditure by ensuring that every individual receiving a salary from the department is a legitimate employee actively contributing to healthcare services. Gauteng Health spokesperson Mutala Dale Mudiba
made a call to all our employees to actually present themselves at various human resource offices to go and verify themselves. All they need to do is to bring their ID copies and they'll be taken through the system and they get verified. Unfortunately, those that avoid verification or do not participate in this particular process run the risk of being removed from the payroll, including in some instances where criminal cases might have to be opened.
Civil society organizations have urged the government to declare hunger a national emergency. This comes amid the launch of the Union Against Hunger campaign at the People's Pantry in Lawrenceville, Johannesburg. The aim of the campaign is to reduce the number of children going to bed on an empty stomach. Statistics show that 1 in 4 people face severe food insecurity and that 10,000 children die from malnutrition in South Africa each year. Professor Stephen Devereaux from the Centre of Excellence and Food Security stresses the need for immediate action.
We need to help the government think more clearly and more focusedly and more coherently about tackling hunger. Firstly, we feel strongly that hunger should be recognised as a national emergency, crisis, disaster, just as COVID was and just as electricity was.
U.S. President Donald Trump has said American taxpayers will get more than the sum given in aid to Ukraine after the two countries agreed on a deal to access Ukraine reserves of critical minerals. Trump said the deal could be signed on Friday, but it appears not to include security guarantees demanded by Ukraine. A Ukrainian government advisor, Yuri Sak, said that Kyiv understood that there would be changes after years of war.
I think very soon we will all get used to the very unusual nature of this negotiating process. Things are said, we reply, but at the same time, we are not a nation of, freeloaders, and we understand very well that this war has been lasting for 3 years, and time has come to probably switch to a slightly different narrative.
Recapping the top story, the ANC has announced a reconfigured Gauteng leadership structure. It says the move is part of the party's path to renewal. ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula announced the Gauteng Provincial Task Team just a day after announcing a reconfigured leadership structure in KwaZulu-Natal. I am Ondela Mbana for SAFM News. Headlines at 4:30.
In your sports this hour, India slammed for one venue in Champions Trophy and September, eager to quickly pick up pieces at Chippa United. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M2 eastbound in central Johannesburg is queuing towards Joe Slovo Drive, and Christian de Wet Road southbound in Honeydew is delays towards Dolphin Street. In KZN, the N3 eastbound has a stationary vehicle reported after Spaghetti Junction, and Old North Coast Road is closed just north of Columbine Place. In Cape Town, Victoria Road outbound is slow moving through Woodstock, and Chapman's Peak Drive is closed until 4 p.m. due to alien vegetation clearing works. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you.
In business, a rand saved is a rand earned. And almost 100,000 businesses trust OUTsurance.
We're in the security industry. Every month we save 1,488 rand with OUTsurance. Just having made the switch from our previous service provider to OUTsurance has allowed us to put another vehicle onto our fleet.
For your business insurance, contact OUTsurance to see how much your business could save. SMS quote to 43328 for immediate cover, or visit outsurance.co.za today. A licensed insurer in FSP. T's and C's online.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matric mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bucky to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
SAFM would like to thank everyone that submitted their entries for the playwriting competition. The announcement of the top 10 and winners of the competition will be announced on the 3rd of March 2025 on The Talking Point with Kathy Mutlatlana. Stay tuned to SAFM and find out who is the lucky winner. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So, still to come, we'll be touching on the city of eThekwini and their water problems and protests. We'll do that imminently. We'll also have an update on that ANC presser relating to the changes within the Gauteng province. And, there's a fire on Table Mountain. We'll have an update on that. But there's no question at this point in time in terms of what moves the National Pulse. Of all the things, it's got to be about school bullies and punishment.
Hey, Ashraf, it's always amazed me when someone, especially an adult, calls a radio station and advocate for the kids to be beaten up. I just don't understand this. I mean, Ashraf, personally, any teacher that gave me a hiding, I just don't like them. Even when I bump into them in the streets, I don't like them because that thing was very traumatic. Why were you hitting me? I was so small. Why were you beating me up? People don't fear for their children. They just don't care. That thing is traumatic. I hate it even today. Why are you beating me up? I'm defenseless. Why are you hitting me? Thanks, Sisbonge here.
Well, Sisbonge, that sums it up. How do you square off your point about how traumatic it was that you were beaten by a teacher versus what we have now, where the teachers don't beat up anybody, they're not allowed to, but learners are being beat up every day at school, if not physically, then in terms of mental anguish that they experience. something has got to happen. Let's, however, talk about something else that's got to happen, and that's going to be the issues of water. For the last 10 days or so, we spoke about extensive water problems in the city of Joburg, but we also know there's been huge water problems in many parts of the country, and we said when we know about these, we must talk about it. Now, the city of eThekwini, they certainly have their own water problems, and now we hear that the eThekwini ratepayers protest movement is the latest entity to voice discontent at the escalating water supply crisis in that region. Asad Ghaffar is the eThekwini Ratepayers Protest Movement's chairperson. He's on the line now. Asad, appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting on the National Pulse. Asad, do I have you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I certainly can. Thanks for your time. Right. So first explain to us, set the scene for us. What is the problem in your region, in your community?
Currently, we are also facing a crisis. There are areas within eThekwini that haven't had piped water for the last 40-odd days. There is an issue in terms of supply, and then there is a curtailment program that they're rolling out, and then just to manage the curtailment program, they're switching on reservoirs, switching off reservoirs, but they're not dealing with the elephant in the room, which is the failing or the broken infrastructure.
So you're saying 40 days. I thought you were going to say 40 hours and you were frustrated at that. 40 days. Give us a sense of the region. I mean, how broad? Which are the areas in the suburbs affected by this?
Look, most recently it's the Queensborough, Amanzimtoti area. But if you look at the Tonga, Advel, and that, they have been going with intermittent water supply for almost 3 years. If you look at the area from Lazi and further south, that community hasn't had water for years. So it's all over. It's pockets all over. It's the Southern Aqueduct and the Northern Aqueduct. Whoever feeds off these lines are being affected.
Okay, you're saying that it's not a case of water scarcity, although we're a water scarce country. There's been lots of rains in the eastern parts of Gauteng or South Africa over the last few months, right? It's a case of infrastructure breakdown. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so it talks to everything else that's plaguing our country, which is obviously poor leadership, mismanagement, looting, corruption. You can name all of them on your fingertips, and that all points to this. So when we're talking about the infrastructure, we're talking 15 years ago. It was already discussed and minuted that the infrastructure within eThekwini will fail, and the city was meant to, set money aside about 5 billion rand a year in order to meet this requirement. However, they just don't seem to care. And now we're sitting at the problem where this infrastructure is collapsing at an alarming rate, given the fact that there's leaks in the system, and in order to pipe the water through the system, they have to increase the pressure. The increased pressure is obviously creating more burst pipes. They don't have money for spares. They don't have money to pay the contractors. It's just an absolute mess.
So I understand that the call is, sort out the water supply or we'll withhold funds. Is that the position of your ratepayers protest movement?
100%. Water is a basic human right. And we're talking about 525,000 paying consumers subsidizing 3.5 million. Now we are saying we are paying you diligently, whatever that amount has been. Plus, you have added an infrastructure surcharge for the last 3 years we've been paying you, and you're not ring-fencing this money that you're collecting. So why must we continue to pay you? Because all we're doing is we're feeding an empty pot.
All right, they may counter you and say, what about the legality of withholding rates? You can't do that.
Again, we understand the legal perspective around it. And there is no law that we as ratepayers that we can use, because it's been already out in the media. As an organization, we've taken the city many times to court. So we understand the legal consequences of our action. We also understand the framework in terms of what our options are. But we are asking the question, under normal circumstances, yes, we would be irresponsible. But in a time where there's no action being taken against those individuals who are mismanaging funds, then what other options do we as citizens have?
Okay.
It's not something that's just for eThekwini. It's a question to be asked for the whole country.
Fair enough. So to confirm, your request or your demand, right, is put forward to who? To the eThekwini municipality, right? And what are you asking them? And if they don't adhere, your point about withholding rates, when will that kick in?
We're asking them one question, and we've been asking this question for a while now. So they've been collecting an infrastructure surcharge, and this is amounting to billions of rands per month. And we're asking them, tell us how much of money you've collected, how much of money have you used, and what is the remainder portion of the money that you have collected. They couldn't answer this question. We asked this question to the Auditor General. We asked this question in a budget meeting with the municipality. They can't give you a straight answer. They submitted a prior application. They couldn't answer the question. I mean, they asked us twice, in fact, for a postponement. They passed the deadline and they asked for an extension, which we granted them twice. Even now, as we stand, they still cannot give us a straight answer. So we are giving them, on the 1st of March, we're handing over a memorandum to the city manager, to the mayor, and also to the MEC for Proctor, because he also needs to step in, because these are serious, it's a serious crisis, and we'll give them 14 days. If within 14 days they do not come back to us with all the answers on the memorandum, then at the end of the month, we will simply withhold our funds.
And how many, just the last thing, how many people have committed to doing just that? How many households that will have committed to withholding their rates to the municipality?
So when we took this decision as an organization, because we've done this before, it's not the first time, we didn't have the support of the majority of individuals. We will see on the 1st of March. On the 1st of March, if we have at least 20% of the 525,000 paying consumers, then we will continue. But if we don't, we'll relook at our action.
I understand it. Let's see what happens next, of course, right? Appreciate your time, Asad Ghaffar, the eThekwini Ratepayers Protest Movement chairperson. Complete breakdown in terms of water supply. Lots of questions that they've asked around funding and tenders and maintenance issues that they say there's been no proper answers. As a result of that, they intend to withhold their rates from around mid-March with a memo being sent to the municipality on that 1st of March. Do you live in that region? Would you be signing that memo? Would you, and in fact, be in a situation where you would be withholding your rates as well in a way to try and resolve a basic human rights issue? This is the National Pulse.
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the tooth fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does everyone at your company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul.
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampa on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
Day 15. Location undisclosed. Mood brave. Music Eye of the Tiger. Dear Diary, it's been 2 weeks of epic challenges against some of the most memorable and epic Survivor contestants. I have endured some harsh weather conditions, unbelievable drama, and these fire tokens have given me and the other contestants a second chance to stay in the game. Food. I feast on the defeat of my enemies. Vumi over there is busy planning and scheming, thinking that he can get me off the island. Never mind though. I will win this and take home $2 million. We're gonna be rich, Papa.
Rich Kupiwana Ponani, are you doing that thing again? Come and get your dinner, Mr. Fake Diary Sessions. We're now on Survivor. Oh, the world will fall.
Catch Survivor Season 40, Winners at War. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Starts 27 February on S3. Open up.
S3. The whispers
steps in the morning as I look in your
This February, the month of love and self-care, at SAFM we're celebrating with you, spreading love to all. Let's embrace kindness, connection and self-care. And as always, SAFM will continue leading the conversations that move us through love, wellness and everything in between. This month, let's love ourselves, love each other and keep the conversation going. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
'Cause I'm your lady and you are my man.
You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM.
So we now know that the ANC has reconfigured the Gauteng provincial leadership. That was announced by the ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula earlier on, right? So what we'll do, we're going to get a response on that. But first things first, let me introduce then Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast. Good chatting to you as always. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Of course, it's been a busy time for the African National Congress, and the point has been made that, you know, these reconfigurations has got nothing to do with the showing of the party in that May 29 election. Having said that, let's hear. We're going to play some clips. Firstly, from the Secretary General of the ANC announcing this reconfigured Gauteng leadership.
The Gauteng Provincial Task Team has been inaugurated here today. It is led as co-conveners by Comrade Amos Masondo on my immediate right, and the provincial convener Comrade Panyaza Lusufi, and the deputy provincial convener Comrade Ntombi Mekwe, next to Comrade Panyaza, and provincial coordinator next to me, Comrade Hope Papo, and provincial deputy coordinator Nomantu Rani Wokonkomo, and provincial fundraiser Tasnim Mutara. They will be supported by a working committee which is as follows. Uhuru Milwa is going to convene organizing and campaigns. Joy Piri, convener of DCIP, Mbali Klope, convener of Arts and Culture, Jane Mananiso, convener of Gender and Equity, Bekin Kosi, convener of Political Education, Trevor Fowler, convener of Local Government Interventions, Advocate Nandi Panzelenya, convener Legal and Monitoring, Dr. Bandile Masuku, convener Education and Health, TK is a convener Policy Monitoring and Evaluation, Nandi Pamayatula Koza, convener Legislature and Governance, Sizake Nkosi Malobani, convener Elections, Lebogang Maile, convener Sectoral Mobilization, Tebukolitsi, convener Peace and Stability, Ezrali Tualo, convener Economic Transformation, Peace Mavi, convener International Relations, Morakani Musupe, convener Social Transformation Committee, Matume Chilwani, convener of Drafting, Dipuo Velase, convener Provincial Disciplinary Committee, Nonzayaba Talenga Mazibuko, convener Commission for Religious and Traditional Affairs, Mzi Kumado, I don't see him yet, or is here, is our provincial spokesperson and ex-officio in the provincial working committee.
Right, so what then is the first order of business for this reconfigured ANC Gauteng?
The immediate task in Gauteng is to rebuild ANC branches, leagues and structures so that they are actively engaged in local development and responsive to the needs of the people. The ANC brand and communications must be strengthened to reaffirm the organization's leadership role in the province. ethical leadership and discipline will be prioritized to address corruption, construction and human settlement extortions, crime, deepening economic transformation that benefits our people, and gender-based violence.
Okay, let's get a response. So, certainly, Prof. Breakfast, you've been listening to that conversation, or certainly the ANC's Secretary General announcing those names. What do you make of it, firstly?
So, in the bigger scheme of things, the ANC would like to regain the ground that it has lost. But I don't think that it will be able to achieve that objective, because the decision in question was not made in good faith, in my view. I think it will backfire on the ANC in future, because the decision, as it stands, in my view, it's a very undemocratic move, because these people who were pulled out of the positions that they held were elected by the rank and file. They were elected by the branches of the ANC. And now you are taking a decision as H2 or as the a mother body to remove them without the knowledge of the people who elected them in the first place. So, yeah, I think it will haunt the ANC.
So when you say haunt, what sort of pushback do you expect then from the branch?
Okay, for instance, the question is, the people who have been pulled out of the positions that they were elected for, are they going to campaign for the ANC during the upcoming local government elections? Because those, let's be honest, those people, I think they are still holding grudges. They are left with a broken heart. So it's really to create a problem. And the other issue is that you have some people, I think Jeff, Khadebe, I think it's Hope Babo, who are alleged to be aligned to the president. Then the question that begs is, what kind of an outcome are we going to have out of this? So I think the whole setup or arrangement is a bit flawed.
But what other choice did they have? Because they did perform poorly in that last election, although Fikile Mbalula has actually said that, in fact, this is not directly punitive measures for that last election.
The problem is the ANC started to be dealt with a blow in a big way in 2016 at local government level, when it lost those urban centers. And the ANC responded by saying that the party will take the blame. But now the blame is being put on to provinces. So, the way the ANC responds to these issues, I think, is biased.
But when you say, the blame is now, they will take the blame and then push it onto the provinces, as you've said now. What could the ANC do if not push the blame onto certain provinces that lost the most ground? What should the ANC then have done?
I think the approach is simplistic. This is not a straightforward matter. It's a very complex matter, because I think there is a nexus between voter turnout or voter behavior and the services which are needed on the ground. If you don't render services, people will, and some of the services are services that should have been rendered by national government. It's not things that the provincial government can take the blame for. So that's the problem. Then we turn around and say that no, it means that you guys, you didn't do what you should have done. Therefore, pulling out some people who held these post and then plugging in my own people. It's a problematic approach.
Okay, well, let's see what the reaction will be and whether there's a pushback from the branches and then also within the rank and file of the African National Congress. Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast, appreciate your time as always. Thanks for joining us here on the National Pulse. Right, let's get to the news headlines now. Here's Ondela Mbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. In the news headlines, the South African Police Service says it plans to fast-track the implementation of the Phase 1 of the body cameras for use by its members immediately at the beginning of the 2025-26 financial year. Former ANC Gauteng chairperson Panyaza Lesufi and former NCOP chairperson Amos Masondo have been announced as co-conveners in Gauteng for the newly reconfigured provincial task team, and officials from both Hamas and the Israeli government say it's been agreed that tomorrow Israel will release 600 Palestinian detainees and prisoners that it refused to free last weekend. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Hose.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in four ways is queuing towards Winnie Mandela Drive, and the N3 northbound in Bedfordview queuing on the link to the N12 east at Gilolies interchange. In KZN, the N3 eastbound has a stationary vehicle reported after Spaghetti Junction, and on the M4 a mudslide reported near Westbrook Circle. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend, the M3 inbound is slow moving towards Hospital Bend, and the N1 outbound slow moving towards Kuburg interchange. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Okay, Tumi, let's talk cricket. So there's a big debate about venues, isn't it?
Absolutely. Former cricketers and pundits have slammed India's undeniable advantage of playing their Champions Trophy matches in Dubai, while other teams have to shuttle between three venues in Pakistan and fly to the UAE. Now, India refused to travel to host Pakistan for the 50-over tournament because of security concerns and political tensions, and they're playing all their matches at the Dubai International Cricket Stadium. A standoff between the rivals lasted for more than a month, leaving the tournament in jeopardy until the Pakistan board agreed a compromise with the International Cricket Council. Then, still staying with the Champions Trophy, England are currently sitting on 97 for 2 after 16 overs. They currently need 229 runs in 34 overs to win. Remember, Afghanistan posted 325 for 7 in their overs. In football, Chippa United coach Thabo September hopes a win over Richards Bay in their upcoming Betway Premiership can be a catalyst to consistency. The Chile boys dropped all 3 points in their own backyard against Kukuna United at the Buffalo City Stadium at the weekend, losing 1-0 to drop out of the top 8 with 13 matches to go. September immediately raised concerns about his team's failure to build on the momentum from having beaten Cape Town City a few days earlier. He's now eager to pick up the pieces away to the Natal Rich boys on Saturday at the Kingsway Litini Stadium.
That's one thing that we've been doing well, is the bouncing back. It's just the consistency. But in terms of bouncing back, we have been doing that. I think probably only 2 times this season where after losing a game, we lost a game. But we've been doing well. We look forward now to playing a Richards Bay that also has picked up playing good football, good speed. So we look forward to do well when we play them.
Elsewhere, Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola has made it clear that Kevin De Bruyne will have full control over his future as he reaches the latter stages of his career. De Bruyne has been the driving force of City's dominance over the past decade. However, recurring injuries have limited his game time. This has raised a lot of questions if he will stay or seek a new challenge, and Guardiola says that the decision rests solely with the player. Elsewhere, Real Madrid left Kylian Mbappe, and it seems like he might just miss today's clash against Real Sociedad due to a dental problem. He was left out of the travelling group to recover from this issue, and England international Jude Bellingham returned to the squad after missing Sunday's Liga win against Girona through suspension. In rugby, Sharks utility back Jordan Hendrickse expects his former side to try to run them off their feet in Joburg on Saturday. John Plumtree's team will face the Lions twice over the next 2 weeks at Ellis Park and then the Kings Park in derbies that could have a significant impact on both the URC and SA Shield standings. The Sharks are currently fourth on the URC log, 6 points behind the Bulls with the game in hand, and the Lions are 12th, 4 points outside the top 8. The Lions are out of the SA Shield contention, having lost 3 of their 4 derbies so far, but the Sharks are second on 14 points within striking distance of the Bulls. And then finally in tennis, Wimbledon champion Barbora Krejcikova has withdrawn from next month's tournaments at Indian Wells and Miami due to a back injury that has kept her out of action since November. The world number 16 sustained the injury during the tour's Asian swing of tournaments and appeared hampered by it at the WTA finals in Riyadh, where she reached the semi-finals. The 29-year-old skipped the Australian Open in January also, saying that she needed more time for her injury to heal. On that note, it is a wrap from my
Just
side.
your quick thought. What do you think about that whole cricket argument about India home and India away and others away?
As much as I understand their reasoning, I just also feel like it is a fair point to raise that perhaps they do have an advantage because of the other teams having to go fly all the way to the UAE to face them while they just here
My question
at
is,
one venue.
My question was the draw for these venues made last night?
No.
Okay, that's all we need to know. They're rather late.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, let's talk about other sorts of monies with Makwe Masilela, the Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Makwe, good to connect as always. Right, we're going to get to local and global news in a moment. Let's start with the Bid Corporation's interim results.
Yes, Ashraf, this is the company that was unbundled from Bidvest in May 2026. Their revenue is up 3.6% on a better festive season trading. Their growth reflects both organic and the companies that they've been acquiring. And Europe, which happens to be their largest unit by revenue and profit, unfortunately, it was impacted by bad weather, but we've seen a nice rebound when it comes to the second quarter and the festive season. And profits as headline earnings per share up 10%, interim dividend up 6.7%. And falling U.S. consumer confidence is adding to concerns about the economy following a string of weaker data that includes lower retail sales and consumer sentiments. And you can develop its natural resources in what may pave the way towards electricity has been mantled by the Trump administration, and that's after more than a decade of work. And our January consumer inflation ticked up to 3.2 from December 3%, and oil prices held at almost 2 months low as potential peace deal between Russia and Ukraine continued to weigh on prices, while lower U.S. crude stockpiles provided some support, and Brent crude, as we're talking now, is up 0.5% at $72 a barrel, and safe haven demand remained high, and that's in the face of uncertainty over U.S. trade tariffs and slowing economic growth, but profit-taking kicked in, and gold is down 0.7% at 2,893, and platinum is flat at 972. Global markets continue to cruise with the local pulse up 0.5%, and we've been helped by our industrials and financials because our resources are down 2%. The rand weakened 0.4% against the dollar is now 18.44, 23.33 against the pound, and 19.32 against the euro.
Perfect. Let's leave it at that. Makwe Masilela, we will connect tomorrow, and your call's coming up shortly, but we'll talk about Table Mountain next.
Every person, no matter who you are, what music you're inclined to listen to, and what you do with your weekends, you need a weekend playlist. It's that musical mix of music that accompanies the lazy weekends, whether catching up with friends and family or just taking some time to reflect. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 on SAFM.
36-year-old Joy loves Outsurance Essential because it's low-cost insurance designed for older cars. Now, for her 2013 Ford Figo Ambiente, she only pays 400 rands a month. With Outsurance Essential, you get up to 1 million in liability cover. That means if you cause an accident, hope not, the other car could be covered for up to 1 million rands. Adds even more value than with a motor warranty, which then covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns as well. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rands. You should know the number. SMS CAR to 43187. CAR 43187. Licensed insurer and FSP, T's and C's and information online.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
I see there's a comment. Hi, it's an everyday thing. We don't have water from Durban. Thank you. And that's it, right? Ashraf, there's going to be a pushback by the ANC leadership in Gauteng province. Not from the voters, as Breakfast said, but the people who'll be fighting for the perks and the power they lost. Also, there's going to be a lot of sabotaging the GNU to make it fail. That's how they operate, joining the SACP to sabotage government, from Thabo in Soweto. Thabo saying it like he thinks it is, meaning that's exactly what it's going to be. We'll see what happens, right? Okay, more comments on the schooling issues.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Malasalina Pumalanga, but original from Limpopo. Ashraf, I'd like to concur with whoever that made Bongi angry in regards to corporal punishment. I didn't hear that voice note or that call, but then I concur with that person. South Africa needs corporal punishment back in South Africa, in our homes and in our schools. The 80s and 90s kids are disciplined. The 2000s and the 2010 kids are a problem. There's a difference between beating a person and disciplining a person.
Okay, I wonder who else agrees with that. That means a return. We're not talking death penalty. That's another conversation. You know, the Constitution doesn't allow it, okay? But corporal punishment, which is also removed in this new dispensation, and many people, I hear that anecdotally. You know, you meet people, you talk at brides, and it's like, you know what? We are too lax. We just allow the learners to do whatever they want, and it's just not on.
Good morning, Ashraf. I think before we think of the idea of advising the Department of Basic Education in regard to corporal punishment, we need to ask the question, did they ever ask for advice before it was legislated? And if not, then what's the point of trying to advise them, because they were never advised before, or they didn't consult anyone before. So that's just my thinking.
Well, I hear you, but if they haven't consulted before and if they're floundering for ideas and you've got some great ideas, why would we keep it to ourselves if the ideas can change society for the better? Right, let's get to some calls now, and we stay in the KZN region. Shura has a thought. Hi, Shura.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Bullying, I want to try just explain what bullying is.
Go for it.
I'm sure you must have experienced bullying in the workplace yourself, have you?
No, not in the workplace. School, yeah.
When I
was a licensed school, yeah.
It's very common in the workplace. Are you familiar with the word Illuminati?
Yes, I am. But okay, tell us. Let's assume we don't know. So tell us what do you want to say?
That is exactly I'm trying to get at. It's normally people who bully you for top attention at work. They're after your credibility. They're after your position. I'm talking about adults now. If you are very good, you get good grades at school or at your work. You shine. The bully will come after you. It used to happen only in the workplace, and now it starts at school. So today's bullies at school will be tomorrow's bullies in the workplace.
All right. So how do we take what you've just said, and then try and work out a solution for it?
What you have to understand is first why this child is bullied. The teacher will probably be able to tell you this is my top pupil in the class, and it's he or she's being bullied. Not always necessarily, but that is normally a top pupil will be bullied, or a top pupil will bully another pupil who has the potential to outshine him or her.
So
but it's about top attention.
You say
you
it's
get
about
too much attention.
Okay.
It's about top attention. I lived through it all the days of my life. And you can in the workplace, you lose your job. They trump up false charges against you. They sabotage your work to get you out, to push you out.
Okay, well,
and it's very frightening that it's starting now at school level.
all right, but I don't think it's starting. I think it started a long time ago. It's just getting worse. That's what it is. Shura, if you've been victims of that, I'm really sorry about that, just by the way, in terms of your own experiences in the workplace, right? Let's say now, we go to Bedford View, in fact, to Glenn. Hi, Glenn.
Hi, Asaf, my friend. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. Go for it.
Mbalula and the ANC can forget about winning back KZN and Gauteng because their local leaders are not credible on the ground. So it doesn't matter how they put at the top there. We have councillors who are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and next year is the local government election. So it doesn't matter whether they can put President Mbeki as the convener or anybody. It will not work. They must go back to the drawing board and give us proper and credible people on the ground.
Well, I wonder. Yeah, okay. I hear what you're saying. I think we don't know. So much is changing every day in the political space. Glenn, thanks for that. But I think the big thing for the ANC is they know it, I know it, we all know it. They have to do something really effective to turn around those falling numbers they've got. But of course they know that, don't they? Warren in Stutterheim, hi.
Good evening, Ashraf.
Not quite. It's still the afternoon, but go for it, yeah.
Sorry. I've been listening to the radio. I'm 81 for the last 70 years. So, and being retired, I listen. I'm disappointed with the SABC ANC. Repeat, SABC ANC. That's all that the SABC is becoming, okay? A marketing tool for the ANC, and there's a lot of people who haven't the guts to phone in. But I'm phoning in, and I'll say, please tone it down. We don't want free publicity. What for?
Explain what do you mean by that. Explain what do you mean by the marketing tool and free publicity, yeah.
Right. Every time a win comes from the ANC, we get blown over by it. There is a reconfiguring conference. Who in Cape Town is interested? In Port Elizabeth, East London? What's happening in Gauteng and the ANC? Let them send out a newsletter to all the inverted commas.
I must tell you, okay, you made your point. So can I tell you something? We've had DA conferences, and when they do, we cover it. When there's MK conferences, we cover it. When there's Action SA conferences, we cover it. It just so happens to be a reconfiguration of the ANC, we cover it. They don't have a conference, or they don't reconfigure, we don't cover it. How do we ignore the party that still has got the most votes in the country? We just ignore what's happening to them because you don't like it. Warren?
However, what you can do is moderate somehow what is going out and coming out on the airways. And I'm saying what a lot of people are too scared to say. And I can guarantee you, one half of the country will say, yes, the ANC should run like this. And yes, tell us what's happening. And there's another big part of the country that says possibly, I don't think so.
Well, I heard you. Okay, Warren, we're going to leave it at that. The truth is, if you listen to the show every day, I can tell you now, for every person or every ANC member that speaks up the ANC, we get every other person who speaks down the ANC. And the space is open. It's there. You probably just need to listen carefully. You'll pick it up. Warren in Stutterheim, thanks for that. Let's get to Luma in Cape Town. Hi. Luma, hi.
Hi there, Ashraf. Hi, Ashraf. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good indeed. Go for it.
Yeah, Ashraf, we need to get the right people into our leadership position. You know, I say this because of what's happening in the relations with the White House is really exposing this GNU government, of Cyril Ramaphosa, you see, because of now the AfriForum guys keep on going there and they put on their statements, and then this government, GNU government, is unable to get their word anyway in the global events, including this expropriation bill they just signed.
So you're saying, when you talk about leadership, I mean, which leadership are you referring to?
I don't think that Lamula is right for that position. There's a guy called who's actually the ambassador to the U.S., Rasul. He was the premier of the Western Cape.
Yeah.
He was excellent to become the Minister of Foreign Relations. So not Ramula, also Mam Angie. She was never supposed to be the Minister of Defense. So we've got this musical chairs that are affecting our government, and it's too much now.
But you see, that's the prerogative. That's the prerogative of the president, whether you like it or not, in terms of appointing an executive. Although nowadays the parties may say because of the GNU, the president has to get the other parties buy in. I got that. Thank you for that. Right. Let's see if we can pick up. In fact, we're going to cross to Cape Town with other issues around the fire. We'll do that right after this.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
A convicted murderer on death row, a vicar in a quiet English town, and a maths teacher trapped in a cellar. Cross paths in the most unexpected way. Jefferson Grief is on death row in an American prison for brutally murdering his wife. But it turns out that Grief has a gift. He can solve crimes from inside his cell. English journalist Beth Davenport needs Grief's help. Janice, a woman who recently helped Beth, has gone missing. The last Beth heard from Janice? A text with a blurry image of a man lunging towards the camera. Will Grief crack the case in time? Exactly how is Janice's local vicar involved? And is it really possible to solve a crime before it is committed? Tune into Inside Man, Monday to Wednesday at 9 p.m. Starts 12 February only on S3. Open up.
It's time to shine for young athletes across South Africa. From thrilling football and rugby matches to intense netball games. Experience the passion and prowess of Mzansi's finest young sports stars. Super Sports Schools and SABC Plus bring you the specially curated channel dedicated entirely to school and youth sports. Join us as we celebrate their achievements and bring the excitement right to your screens. This is your chance to support the future of South African sports. The Super Sports Schools channel on SABC Plus, where every game is a home game. Don't miss a moment. Download the SABC Plus app today. Available on iOS, Google, and Smart TV. Or visit sabc-plus.com to start streaming. Super Sports Schools on SABC Plus. All the sport you care about most. Now streaming wherever you are.
You're listening to the National Pulse on SAFM. SAFM.
Right, let's stay in Cape Town now, because there's a problem with regard to Cape Town and the Table Mountain. It's been once again engulfed in flames. I say once again because it seems to be a recurring issue, isn't it? And firefighters on scene have battled this relentless wildfire that broke out on Sunday. Let's get an update on that with Charles Patlane, who was the South African National Park Senior Manager for Communications in the Cape region. Charles, good to connect with you on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon.
Thank you. We speak to you at a time of anguish, understandably so, because of huge concerns as to what has happened. So let's start with this. Has the fire been put out?
We've made significant progress in containing the fire. That's the fire that's both in Red Hill as well as at Table Mountain National Park, Newlands Ravine. So significant progress has been made. The fire has been contained in areas where we can access food, because there are areas that are inaccessible. They are quite rugged. It's a steep face of the mountain, and we can't reach them. So in those areas, we are still fighting the fire there.
Okay, so therefore, what impact does it have on Table Mountain specifically? Not just the beauty and the aesthetics and the environment, but also the many people who visit the Table Mountain and the surrounding area.
Well, for now, the trails have been closed, so people will not be able to access those trails that are close to the fire. That's really the impact that we'll have. But in terms of the ecology, I mean, this is a Fynbos ecology, and it does need fire. The only thing is that we need to make sure that the fire is not uncontrolled and ends up, coming close to property and people.
What is the extent of the damage this time around?
At Table Mountain National Park, around the Newlands Ravine, we've had about 140 hectares of fane boss that has burnt, and in the Red Hill area, we have 640 hectares that has burnt down.
Okay, and often people listening to us will be saying, but these things appear to be happening so often. Like, is there any sophisticated scientific way to work around this so this does not happen? I know it's a force of nature. On the one hand, there's issues of winds and flame, but in this modern world, is there not a way to be able to minimize the risk?
We prepare for what we call the fire season. So we know that there's a particular period in the Western Cape, in Cape Town, where there will be fire. And we anticipate that. We put together plans in advance to say when the fire, for the next fire season, these are the resources we have in place. These are the people that we have working with various volunteer organizations. So we prepare for the fires. It's something that happens every year. It's not something that is necessarily alarming or that it is frequent or anything. It's just that maybe at times it might be the intensity of the fire. You might have less fires that are more intense, or you might have quite a few fires that are not as intense. So it's really neither here nor there.
Okay, and when you say you prepare for it, how do you mitigate against, greater risk and greater damage?
Well, when we get a report, we try and respond within a particular time frame so that we can deal with the fires. We can attend to the fires as quickly as possible, and then we can get containment underway. So really, we do prepare for the fires, and we are ready for most fires when they do occur. Okay. The only thing is that you've got factors like wind, which are unpredictable. They may cause flare-ups because at some point you think that you've contained the fire, and then the wind comes through, sparks some of the embers that are still on the ground, and then the fire flares up again. So those are the challenges that we have to deal with, but we are prepared for that.
Well, thank you for enlightening us, if that's the right word to use, on this issue of the fires around Table Mountain and how you prepare for them. Charles Patlane, the Senior National Parks, South African National Park Senior Manager for Communications in the Cape region. Appreciate your time. Let's get to further comment, and there's lots of comment around bullying.
Hi, Ashraf. Errol from Durban. I was bullied at school in a hostel. It wasn't a physical bullying. It was more of a mental and horrible remarks thrown at me, like I was a weakling, I wasn't a man, I was a bit of a drip. And that really hurt me. And there's nothing worse than that. Errol, Durban.
I do agree. I think it's terrible. It really scars people emotionally. I hope you're fine now.
Ashraf, this is good afternoon. This is just a travesty of the ANC constitution. There's no such a thing as reconfiguration in any of the ANC documents where this administration came up with the process, the weight and everything. And if they're going to challenge it into court, those that feels undone, they should.
Okay, and here's another one, also relating to, of course, bullying.
Hi, Ashraf. JJ here in Stexbridge. When it comes to bullying, Ashraf, I was bullied, and that was in the 80s. There was bullying even from that time. We used to run. And the bad thing is, we are mistreated by those who are using corporal punishment, our teachers. Some of the people who are teaching were just angry.
So you were bullied and then you were mistreated by the teachers as well. Wow. Okay, more to come on some of the biggest issues that moves the national pulse in a moment. But let's get the news now. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Greg Goos.
Thank you, Ashraf. Police to fast-track use of body cameras and calls for a hunger national emergency. Good day to you. The police service says it plans to fast-track the implementation of body cameras for use by its members immediately at the beginning of the 2025-26 financial year. It appeared before Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Police. The police minister has announced that they'll begin rolling out the use of 100 body cameras as early as April. He told Parliament the total investment for the rollout will cost more than 2 million rand in the first year and is projected to reach 14 million rand over the next 5 years. The Divisional Commissioner for Technology Management Services in the police service, Edith Mavundla.
The police indeed have an intent to roll out the body-worn cameras on a smaller scale because it's a new technology that we have to learn through as well. But at the moment, there are still processes that need to be followed, that we get to a point where we have gone through supply chain management processes for us to be able to get a contract and be able to implement such. Yes, the intent is to implement from the coming financial year, which is 2025-2026, yes, gradually on a smaller scale.
The former ANC Gauteng chairperson Panyaza Lesufi and former National Council of Provinces chairperson Amos Masondo have been announced as co-conveners in Gauteng for the newly reconfigured ANC Provincial Task Team. The announcement was made today by the ANC's Secretary General Fikile Mbalula.
And the Deputy Provincial Convener, Comrade Ntombi Mekwe, next to Comrade Panyaza, and Provincial Coordinator next to me, Comrade Hope Papo, and Provincial Deputy Coordinator Nomantu Raleho Nkomo, and Provincial Fundraiser Tasnim Mutara.
With the deadline to register spaza shops and other food handling businesses just 2 days away, approximately 40% of these businesses on the Northern Cape have registered. Businesses have been warned there'll be no extension to the deadline on February 28th. Last year, the President ordered that all business operators in this sector be registered following the deaths of children due to foodborne illnesses. The MEC for Cooperative Governance on the Northern Cape, Bentley Voss.
We remind all businesses to register before the deadline of the 28th of February 2025, and we applaud those who already registered. I'm happy that over 1,200 applications have been approved by the municipalities. This will assist the government to support this important sector of the economy better and to ensure that we preserve lives. We are also happy that at this stage, a total of 20 municipalities out of 26 have already adopted the standard bylaws to regulate the industry and ensure continued compliance with the regulation.
Civil society organisations have urged government to declare hunger a national emergency. This comes amid the launch of the Union Against Hunger campaign at the People's Pantry in Johannesburg. Professor Stephen Devereaux is from the Centre of Excellence in Food Security.
We need to help the government think more clearly and more focusedly and more coherently about tackling hunger. Firstly, we feel strongly that hunger should be recognised as a national emergency, crisis, disaster, just as COVID was, and just as electricity was.
Officials from both Hamas and the Israeli government say it's been agreed that tomorrow Israel will release 600 Palestinian detainees and prisoners that it refused to free last weekend. In exchange, Hamas will hand over the bodies of 4 slain Israeli men. The BBC's Yolande Nell has more.
Hamas officials now confirmed that the handover of these 4 hostage bodies, 4 Israeli men who were killed on the 7th of October, will take place tomorrow, along with the release of Palestinian prisoners and detainees. And Hamas is said to have agreed not to stage one of these handover ceremonies, which Israel has complained is one of the violations it sees in the ceasefire deal, saying that this amounted to cruel treatment of the hostages and cruel treatment of their families.
Top story, the police service says it plans to fast-track the implementation of body cameras for use by its members immediately at the beginning of the 2025-26 financial year. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Goos.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon.
Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound queuing through Crown Interchange towards Boysons and Paul Kruger Street northbound in Pretoria queuing towards Lavender Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound queuing towards Cliffdale and the N3 eastbound has a crash reported after Spaghetti Junction. In Cape Town, the M3 in both ways queuing towards Rhodes Drive and the M5 southbound is queuing towards Racecourse Road exit. The N7 Jakes Havel Drive southbound is slow moving towards Voortrekker Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Stay safe on the roads. SAFM is with you.
In your sports this hour, Sereno out of Sundowns clash and England 133 for 4 after 21 overs. More details at 5:30.
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the Tooth Fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does everyone at your company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul.
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampo on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
Dr. Malava, you are a genius, man. Dr. Malava speaking. How can I soothe your heart today?
Hey, Doc. My Bezo says I'm not romantic enough, and with Valentine's Day coming up, I want to brush up on my romantic talk.
Ah, Uncle Mo, I've got you covered. Or better yet, I'll have you improve on your game and have you all set.
Oh, Doc, what are you saying now?
Grab a tennis racket, a bottle of water, and some fresh green fluffy tennis balls, Malume.
Tennis racket, tennis balls. How is that supposed to help?
In the arena, Serena Williams will have you saying 15 love, 30 love, 40 love. It's love everywhere, Malume. Catch in the arena. Serena Williams, Sundays at 7 p.m. starts 9 February only on S3.
Night Talk with Oliver Dixon.
When leaders need to account, we call on them. When society needs to debate, reflect, and advance, we're here to have the conversation. Join me, Oliver Dixon, on Night Talk every Monday to Thursday from 10 to 12 midnight.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So I look forward to your further comments. By the way, we haven't touched on it too much today, but you know that the AfriForum team and their extensions, Solidarity and other supporters have all been out in the USA, effectively on a different sort of lobbying mission, and hopefully we'll cover that story more in detail, maybe possibly by tomorrow. But I wonder what you make of that. That's just one thing, right? In the meantime, certainly we'll talk about a UJ study in terms of an index to tackle inequality. Looking forward to finding out more about that conversation. But first things first, the conversation we've been having about bullies and bullying in schools really is, it's touched a nerve, as I suppose bullying inevitably would do. So let's get another thought on this, right? We chatted about it earlier, and most of the conversations, we've got up as a podcast. So just go to safm.coza, then podcast, then the National Pulse, and you'll find all the interviews that we've done in that slot. But now let me bring in Hendrik Makaneta, who's an education activist. Hendrik, appreciate your time here on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much indeed for having me.
Thank you. Now, earlier on, we chatted to the spokesperson for the Department of Basic Education, and what came through, for this year only, 548 cases of bullying has been reported in this year, which means like a month, less than a month if you kick out the weekdays. It's a frightening number, don't you think?
Definitely, it is a frightening number, and it talks to the reality of what teachers are facing on a daily basis at school. And, in my view, taking letters only to disciplinary hearings, it's clear that it will not resolve the issue.
there are underlying problems which really need to be tackled. And I'm suspecting that the issue of mental health should be addressed. Because if learners cannot manage their emotions effectively, then we'll continue to sit with this problem of bullying.
And I take it, I mean, this has been such an ongoing thing that it's not like we're raising it for the very first time. Like every few months, somebody or other brings it up. It's like normal. It's part of our society, isn't it? So the question is, you mentioned mental health. Now, who needs to tackle this problem? Is it education? Is it the parents? Is it civil society? Is it the community? Because whoever is, we're not getting to the grips of it, isn't it?
Definitely. Education on its own is a triangle that requires collaboration between parents, teachers, and learners. And so, teachers alone, of course, will not be able to win this battle. But of course, parents must also come on board. But you'll understand that the South African society generally, there are still learners who may come from child-aided families, and learners who also come from families where they just do as they wish. They don't have that grasp in terms of discipline. And so this is where the department should step in to say that perhaps there's a need to employ quite a number of professionals, because teachers on their own will not be able to work with these underlying problems that I mentioned when I started. Issues of depression or issues of violent behavior that comes from communities. There's a need for government to employ as many psychologists as possible, educational psychologists in this case.
I would think many.
I
would think many would agree about the psychologists, but or other form of therapists. But the reality, as we have found every day in the last few weeks, is that every department of any aspect of South African society, we get one answer: we don't have the money. And that was then confirmed by that budget speech, potential 2% VAT percentage point VAT hike. So how are they going to fund it then?
Well, you are quite right. The austerity measures have really led to budget cuts, which have affected not only the Department of Basic Education, but also other departments. But the reality is that we are sitting with a problem, and this problem emanates from communities. If government cannot address issues that are faced generally by communities, I mean, these schools are found in communities. If issues of poverty, unemployment, as well as crime, if those issues are not resolved, then in one way or the other, we'll continue to see, these little ones bringing their tendencies of gangs into schools, or, selling dacha within school premises, because it's already happening where they live. So it's just an extension of taking it into the school.
Now, I mean, do you find this is a uniquely South African problem, or is this prevalent in many other countries in the world with similar circumstances to us, or even very different circumstances to us?
It's not only, bullying is not only a South African problem, it happens throughout the world. Remember, it does not include physical assault or, even cyberbullying in this case is part of the bullying. So it's really something that, many countries are dealing with, trying to address. But it appears that, in our case, we continue to have these problems, more and more of these problems, particularly in our public schools. Of course, they happen also in private schools, especially cyberbullying. But the fact that in private schools, somehow you get parental involvement in private, as well as those quintile 5 schools, is more prevalent than in quintile 1. Because remember, these are the schools where, once they send a learner to school, they believe that teachers will be able to do their part and so on. But parental involvement at that level is very minimal.
Interesting. Elijah Mhlangu, the spokesperson for the Department of Basic Education, made the point that what they may well consider is a position whereby, if a learner has been seen to be active in some form of bullying in schools and they summon the parents, very often the parents don't come to school at all, just let it ride. But now they may consider then removing the child from school until such time as the parents actually physically come to school and be part of that disciplinary process. Do you think that's the way to go? I mean, it'll solve the immediate problem, but can it be the lasting problem to solve as well?
Of course, it can resolve the issue temporarily, but it can't resolve it permanently. Remember that, we have no dustbin for human beings. So even if a learner can be expelled, as an example, at a particular school, the Section 29 of the Constitution still dictates that the learner must receive education. So this means you will have to transfer this learner to another school, which means that you are transferring the problem to another school as such. So we really need a multi-dimensional approach here, whereby you can have different stakeholders who can be able to work with learners who are involved in bullying tendencies. And I mentioned mental health as a problem because these learners go through a lot. Sometimes it's just a matter of sitting down with someone who can take them through, just to understand them, where do they come from and so on, until they can be able to pick up the key problem as to why are the learners behaving in a manner in which they are behaving.
You mentioned that this requires a multi-dimensional approach, right? Does that suggest that, in fact, at this point in time, we don't have a multi-dimensional approach as yet?
Of course not, especially in public schools. In public schools, poor teachers have to deal with all of these problems. You remember that teachers are not trained, they are only trained to deliver the curriculum, but they are not trained on how to address issues of bullying, except that, the principle of in loco parentis dictates that in the absence of the parent, the teacher automatically becomes the parent, and therefore teachers have got a duty to look after the general well-being of each and every learner.
I mean,
but they can only do so much.
I would agree with you. I mean, wouldn't there be a call? And I know, going back to the point about your budget issue, so we understand those constraints, right? But that, in fact, that it should not be the teacher's issue at all. That means to separate the teacher who's teaching versus the teacher who has to get involved in disciplining someone who's bullying. That crosses a line that the teacher gets removed from their level of expertise, and you don't want that. What needs to be happening is you then need experts in that field to deal with that specifically at every school in the country, notwithstanding the budget issue we spoke about earlier on.
Definitely. Because, as I said, teachers are already overworked, even in terms of paperwork. They just go through a lot themselves. So there is really a need, despite the difficult situation that we are going through as a country, our challenges of finances, but we really need to find a way to utilize some of these skills. I mean, if there are, graduates, for example, of educational psychology who are sitting at home, maybe government should try and find a way to utilize them somehow, so that they can volunteer in one way or the other into schools where they can be able to assist.
Yeah, well, I mean, earlier on, and maybe we'll end with this, Dr. Shaida Omar spoke about the fact that all of these things are interconnected and related to the issues of socio-economic inequality that is so pervasive in our country. Now, that's the one thing, and maybe you can answer that, but I'll go back to this point about 548 reported cases for bullying in our schools in this school year. So like a month, 20 odd days. I mean, I worked it out. It's like almost just under 30 cases being reported a day. It's a frightening number. I mean, would you say, therefore, that the issue of bullying is a crisis in South Africa and must be treated as such?
Definitely, it is a crisis and it should be treated as such. Government must really collaborate, not only with, the psychologists, as I've said, but also non-governmental organizations. We have got many of the NGOs who are dealing with their programs, who can really be brought into the space as well, to assist the teachers so that they can alleviate that pressure. So it is a deepening crisis as we stand now.
Thank you for your time, Henrik Makanetsa, an education activist, agreeing, in fact, that it's a crisis, bullying is a crisis, and it must be treated as such. What do you think?
Hi, my name is Kutlwana Masote, your host of Weekend Sundowner Classics every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. exclusively on SAFM. Now, this is where you get your best classical music jams on any radio platform. Join me every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between 4 and 7 p.m. Weekend Sundowner Classics.
Hi, I'm Khomotso KG Mweketi, and I believe in music's ability to connect, to heal, to remind, and to bring joy. And each week on my Saturday and Sunday show Seasons right here on SAFM, I endeavor to do just that. So join the movement of Seasons every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's addictive. You might invite a friend. Seasons, only on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide with me, KG Mweketi.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
So, last week was Social Injustice Day worldwide, right? And it does go to the very heart of inequality, doesn't it? Now, what's interesting, there's a move now to address systemic inequalities within South Africa, within the municipalities, in our countries. The University of Joburg School of Public Management, they, in partnership with the Infrastructure South Africa, have launched a Local Government Inclusive Growth Index, which I understand, well, the plan is it'll be very, very transformative. We'll find out how. With me, Professor Daniel Meyer, the studies lead researcher. Prof. Meyer, thanks for connecting to us here on the National Pulse.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Thank you. I suppose when we talk about inequality as a starting point, it is definitely one of the biggest issues that gets our pulses racing, because it is at the center of so many problems that we have in our country, isn't it?
Definitely. Income inequality is the major problem, and that is a result of levels of poverty and high levels of unemployment. And those are the things we look at when we compile an inclusive growth index. Inclusive growth means how well everybody is participating in the economy through opportunities, through jobs, through enabling environment that infrastructure is available for people to have access to work and access to water, clean water, electricity, all of those things. So it's also including a lot of infrastructure issues in this inclusive growth index.
So explain, you say you've launched a inclusive growth index. Explain, what does that mean so we understand it?
We're going to do this on an annual basis. So this is the first round of a press release that we've done. So we've taken data from 1995 up to 2023, and we have compiled this composite inclusive growth index on national level for all of the provinces and then all of the municipalities, 257 municipalities, all of them we've analyzed, and we have got data for everything. So there's 8 variables that predicts inclusive growth, and that is how we did it. So every year we're going to launch this inclusive growth index. We call it the LGG, Local Government Inclusive Growth Index. So it's going to be an annual release from UJ in cooperation with Infrastructure South Africa. So that's our plan. So this is the first release.
And in terms of measuring this inclusive growth that you're talking about, you're measuring it on a municipality to municipality basis. So you will compare municipalities. Why is that important?
Now, what we've done is we've done a baseline for South Africa. So we've got a national baseline, which gives us a baseline. Are you performing better than national or worse than the national inclusive growth? And then we did also for the 9 provinces the same. So we can look at, and then we decided, okay, nobody's looked at local government. Local government is the place which is the level of government that's closest to the people, and we need to find out for every municipality what's happening there in detail. So we need to know what's happening with levels of poverty, unemployment, the GDP growth, access to infrastructure. There's 8 variables. So all of that we've done for each one of them. Then we can compare. And now we can see, is there improvement on a local level, or are we moving backwards? So that's going to be vital for going forward. And municipal officials can look at this index and say, this is where we're struggling, this is where we've been doing well, but those areas we need to work. So each municipality, each province can look at this and say, this is where we stand. How can we improve?
Okay. What is your definition of inclusive growth? What do you mean by that?
Very simplified, I would say it's the level of participation of all of the residents or citizens in a country. And the level of participation could be in terms of opportunities and access to participate in the economy, for example, having a job. That is one of the measurement, but level of participation and level of opportunities to participate, the opportunity, the potential to participate is also measured.
Okay, so what have you come out with today in terms of the launch, which is your starting point, right? What can you tell us?
So we've done national, and South Africa on a national basis scored a score of 52.9, and that has been increasing on an annual basis from 1995 by, let's say, 1%. So that's basically similar to our GDP growth over the last 30 years. It's been very low, and we need to have a much higher improvement in the Inclusive Growth Index. And Gauteng is the best performing province in terms of inclusive growth, meaning that there's more people involved in the economy compared with, let's say, the Western Cape, which is at 58, above the national, but below Gauteng, which the highest score was about 63 out of 0 to 100. So 63, let's say 63% in the index, which runs from 0 to 100. But Gauteng has only been improving at 0.46, lower than national. So we've identified leading and lagging regions in terms of economic theories, and there's a few leading regions, and we've also done some clustering. So if you take a number of local municipalities that's doing very well, we can see they are clustered together. And then we see a lot of municipalities that's doing very badly. They are also clustered together. And there's like a heat map created for this. We can see where there's overflow from a good performing municipal area to other areas that's also affecting them positively. And then you've got these bad areas that's affecting each other also, mostly in KZN and Eastern Cape. They're really struggling in those areas. And we've also ranked all of the municipalities from the best performing inclusive growth one to the worst performing one. The best performing one, if I can tell you this, is a place in Limpopo in terms of inclusive growth, Tabazimbi local municipality, scoring 74 out of 0 to 100. So that's the best performing because most people are working, they're getting relatively high income, lower levels of poverty, less dependence on the breadwinner, and a lot of access to services because of mining activities, for example. There's a few mining towns in South Africa that's really doing very well still at this point of time. And then you've got the worst performing municipality in the Eastern Cape, Umtabankulu, which scored 38 in the index. Big problems there. And we've classified also all municipalities. Is it a very poorly performing and up to the best performing? But the best performing is 74, worst performing is 38.
Okay. So now that we have this information, or you have this information, what do you hope we're going to do with it? I mean, and who needs it?
Yeah, that's why we've joined and collaborated with ISA. They are an agency for government that's doing research on infrastructure and development, and they are connected to the Office of the President. So this report will definitely be released to government at all levels, but we'll start with the national government, with the President's office, and all of the provinces, and we've got lots of connections with municipalities. So hopefully this could be provided to all of the provinces and then broken down to all of the local governments. And we've done this press release today, and hopefully through media like you and through other media outlets, there's going to be a huge awareness of this. In the President's speech on the SONA, inclusive growth was top of the agenda. So it is really important that we look at inclusive growth, not only at economic growth, but inclusive growth to see how we can pull in more people coming into the economy.
Well, I certainly want to get my hands on it, and I think as I talk to you, there are many people connected here to the National Pulse saying, what about me? I also want to get my hands on it. So is it open to the public in terms of access to the actual index, the report?
Yes, there's a full index, so the Excel spreadsheet that's done everything That will be available with charts and so on. So there will be a draft report released, and it can be available. I don't know how we're going to release it. I'll release it through the UJ Media office, so that will be released also in the next few days. But this is just a press release that
I
we
understand.
can get
And then do we go to the
first.
website? I mean, will we get it from the UJ website, or you're not
Yeah,
sure?
the UJ website. You can uj.ac.za.
Okay, I'm certainly going to check it out. I think it's that important. We need to somehow work a way to eliminate inequality and narrow that gap. Professor Daniel Meyer, thank you for your time. The study's lead researcher for now what is called the very first Local Government Inclusive Growth Index, trying to measure growth, inclusive growth, on a municipality to municipality basis. 5:30 is the news headlines with Greg House.
A quick look at the headlines. The police service says it plans to fast-track the implementation of body cameras for use by its members. The Human Settlements Minister has directed a team of officials responsible for emergency housing to speed up the process of assisting flood-affected households in KZN. And South Korea's foreign minister says 2 young North Korean soldiers captured in Ukraine could be allowed to defect to South Korea. There's a full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound queuing towards Winnie Mandela Drive. The N3 northbound in Bedfordview is queuing on the link to the N12 east at Gilulis interchange, and Paul Kruger Street northbound in Pretoria queuing towards Lavender Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound queuing towards Cliffdale. The N3 eastbound has a crash reported after Spaghetti Junction, and Old North Coast Road is closed just north of Columbine Place. In Cape Town, the N3 both ways queuing towards Rhodes Drive. The N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend, and Table Mountain is closed due to fire on Table Mountain. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
All right, Tumi, let's talk soccer.
Yes, Kaizer Chiefs will be without influential midfielder Gaston Sereno for the highly anticipated clash against Mamelodi Sundowns at the Lucas Masterpieces Moripe Stadium in Outreachville on Saturday. The 34-year-old will be serving suspension after being shown a red card in their 4-1 thrashing at the hands of SuperSport United last week. He's been one of Amakosi's key players. So far this season, he has scored 3 goals and provided 5 assists in 15 appearances across all competitions. Meanwhile, Mamelodi Sundowns hope to collect another Premier Soccer League win today when they place Kukuni United. The Brazilians are chasing their 8th league crown in a row, while Babina Noko are targeting a return to CAF competitions, and kickoff for this game is at 7:30. Meanwhile, football fans will now be able to buy football match tickets through WhatsApp. This is after Stadium Management South Africa announced a new ticketing vendor, Open Ticket, in a bid to curb fraudulent fake tickets. Stadium Management SA CEO Bertie Grobler had previously said that till slip tickets purchased under the previous vendor, Ticket Pro, was one of the biggest contributors to the fake ticket problem, and now it will be discontinued.
For the first time ever at a sporting event or sporting venues, the fans and spectators will also be able to purchase tickets via WhatsApp. So this is, if I can call it, a hybrid of digital and outlet purchases. The process to purchase is extremely easy. You can, any card, you can pay via Zapper, you can pay via the Capitec app, and you can also purchase via One Voucher. And I understand that there's more than 7,000 One Voucher vendors in and around Soweto and the venues we manage. The process to purchase these tickets will be available on the website of the 2 clubs.
Elsewhere, Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola has made it clear that Kevin De Bruyne will have full control of his future as he reaches the latter stages of his career. De Bruyne has been the driving force of City's dominance over the past decade. However, recurring injuries have limited his game time. This has, however, raised a lot of questions if he will stay or seek a new challenge, and Guardiola says that decision rests solely with the player. City are in action today against Tottenham Hotspur in the Premier League. Manchester United host Ipswich. Liverpool will continue with the hopes of extending the gap at the top against Newcastle, and Brentford versus Everton. And then in cricket, the last time I checked, England were on 172 for 4 after 30 overs, and they need 154 runs in 20 overs to win. Earlier, Afghanistan posted 325 for 7 in their 50 overs, and Ibrahim Zadran top scored with 177 off 146 balls, with Jofra Archer taking 3 wickets in the Champions Trophy. Then in cycling, the 2026 Tour de France will begin a team time trial as the opening stage for the first time since 1971. The grand depart of the 2026 Tour de France will take place on the 4th of July in Spain, kicking off with a 19.7 kilometer team time trial. Now, this stage will feature a format first introduced on the 2023 Paris-Nice, where the team's time is determined by the first rider to cross the finish line. However, individual general classification times will be based on each rider's actual time. With that said, it is a wrap from my side. I will be back again tomorrow.
And you certainly will. And goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye. Not
forever, just for tonight.
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAFM Market Update.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha.
So, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, Sunday World keeps you updated. Get breaking news, sports, action, and exclusive celeb scoops at your fingertips. Read it, stream it, listen to it. Sunday World, news for all, anytime, anywhere.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, the SAFM Market Update happens every day 6 to 7. To set the scene today, it's not Jimmy, but it's Dudu Ramela. Hi, Dudu.
Hello, Ashraf. Thank you very much for that, and good evening to the listeners. Here's what you can look forward to come 6 p.m. in terms of the show. So we're going to be speaking to International Broadline Food Service Group, and that's Bidcorp, who operate in developed and developing economies across 5 continents. They've reported a strong performance for the half year to December 2024, and this in spite of a challenging economic and trading environment. And so David Cleesby, the Chief Financial Officer of Bidcorp, will be telling us how they managed to achieve these set of results where it is quite resilient. We're also going to be speaking to South African breweries. They've also released results, and they've also reported a healthy performance. Richard Rivet Karnak is the CEO of SA Breweries, and he's going to be speaking to us about these results and also previewing the budget that is yet to be in terms of what they will be expecting to hear when it comes to taxes, more so for beer. We're also going to be talking to Patrick Kelly. He's the Chief Director of Statistics South Africa. That's because the consumer price inflation data was released today. We take a look at how much more we have to pay for groceries in January. And so he's going to be talking to us about all things that we need to know about basics. Coffee. If you love coffee, prices going higher. If you like tea, prices going higher. Prices of bread, prices of maize meal as well. And so he's going to be telling us just how also they do the data and actually measure it. We're going to also be taking a look at the world of opulence. That's because Jithan Pillay is the portfolio manager of Allan Gray. He's going to be talking to us about investing in luxury and why you should and what that space looks like, right? So in in spite, rather, of difficult times, people are still turning to luxury. We'll take a look at the psychology of that as well. And then in our Executive Lounge feature, we're going to be talking about the importance of knowing thyself in propelling you to greater heights. Christine Wu is the Chief Executive of Everyday Banking at ABSA, and she is our Executive Lounge interviewee today. We're going to be speaking to David Shapiro, who's going to give us an in-depth analysis of how the markets performed on this 26th day of February. It's back to you, Ashraf.
Perfect. Look forward to listening to your show, and you do enjoy it as well. I'm sure you will. 6 to 7, and then, of course, after that, it's sport from 7 to 8 with Michael Abramson. Right, I need to get to your calls. There's lots of you, let's get that right. Lots of you have lots to say, and I want to hear you. I want to feel your pulse.
The whispers in the morning as I look in your
This February, the month of love and self-care, at SAFM we're celebrating with you, spreading love to all. Let's embrace kindness, connection and self-care. And as always, SAFM will continue leading the conversations that move us through love, wellness and everything in between. This month, let's love ourselves, love each other and keep the conversation going. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
'Cause I'm your lady and you are my man.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So I tell you what, at this time of the day, we tend to reflect on so many things that have sort of moved the national pulse today, from discussions about bullying, which I think has taken up a major part of the conversations, to at certain stages the issues of AfriForum, and then very little spoken about what's going on in Sudan. And there's big things happening in Sudan, sad things happening in Sudan, right? And then that conversation about the fact that we've got a deadline, February 28th, regarding spaza shops, which is a very important one indeed. And then I think towards the end, the issues of Table Mountain on fire once again. But that last conversation regarding the index, looking at inclusive growth and how that can tackle inequality, very, very important indeed. I mean, those are just some of the things that I know has moved the national pulse. And there could be issues in sport as well, and maybe other things that we haven't quite spoken about, like B20, which is really important as an extension of G20. But let's get your thoughts, Sitembile. Well, we spoke about the ANC as well, remember that, and their reconfiguration. And in fact, Sitembile, you want to talk about just that from Flagstaff, right? Go for it.
That's correct, Ashraf. Ashraf, I believe that when something has gone wrong, corrections have to be made. But you just need to know what is it that you do to correct what you think has gone wrong. I think the ANC national leadership has missed the point here. I'll tell you why. You know, I will talk specifically about the province of KwaZulu-Natal.
Mm-hmm.
Before ANC took over the leadership in that province, it was under the stewardship of the Inkatha Freedom Party, led by Dr. Lionel Mchali. So ANC-led government introduced what was called floor crossing. That's how Ndebele ascended to the premiership position, because of that floor crossing. So it must not be something new to them that they don't lead in that province of KwaZulu-Natal. And for them to be able, and of course that was sustained, that constituent in that province, after Jacob Zuma also took over as the president of the ANC and of the country. Hence, the people of KwaZulu-Natal were able to vote for the ANC.
Okay, I hear you now. Let's just look at the current situation. There's been reconfiguration. What's your thoughts on that? Sitembile?
Yeah. Yes, Ashraf. The point that I'm trying to make is that
it's not going to work for the ANC. To configure the leadership, it's not going to work. I believe that maybe if they can have somebody, because Zulus will always vote for their own, you know. They don't care whoever is in the position, but for as long as that particular somebody is not from KwaZulu-Natal, it's not going to help. So the only thing that that can help ANC to ascend to the throne in that province of KwaZulu-Natal, and of course in Gauteng probably, is to have probably somebody who is going to be a deputy president from KwaZulu-Natal.
Okay, so you're saying they would have to vote on tribal lines. Interesting point you make. Okay, so Tembile, thank you for making your point. I wonder who's going to respond to that. Right, Babalwa in Gqeberha High.
Good, man, how's it?
I'm good indeed. Right, go for it. Your point?
I'm just happy with the state management decision that they've taken, especially for about the tickets. And I wish it can be applied, man, in all the games. I think it was really, really difficult using ticket phones, buying tickets. I mean, for example, the recent one now for Mamelodi Sundowns and Kaizer Chiefs. I mean, it was running, and then you'll be told that no, the system is down and all those things. Yeah, but so I think this is a great idea that they've introduced.
Well, good. I hope it works. I think South African football, soccer, has got to revolutionize itself. They can't say, well, we used to do so-and-so thing in those days and stick with that.
Yeah.
Not in a world that's changing every single day. So your point is well taken, Babawa. Thanks for that, right? Willie Nkuma, you want to comment about unemployment?
Yes.
Yeah, go for it.
Look, Ashraf, see, my pulse has gone up to the mountain when thinking or remembering the issue that employment in South Africa has got some restrictions when coming to the years, saying that when you are above 35 years old, you are no more employable. So therefore, Ashraf, I'm appealing to you again for the third time that let us get Minister of Labour, just like Minister of Health. Minister of Health, Ashraf, is coming to the studio from time to time. He's very responsive, Mr. Mutwale, from time immemorial. But these other ministers, Minister of Local Government, Minister of Water, they wouldn't want to come to the studio so that we get to them head on. Their response to our problems, Ashraf.
All right. I think you made your point, and it's something that, of course, Temba and Keys, my producers, have made notes of. Of course, it's not that simple. We have to invite them. They must be available to come. They must want to come. We have to align ourselves. There's a whole lot of things that gets involved in. And yes, some ministers are far more responsive and willing to come on air, and others are not. I'm not saying that applies to Labour. I'm just saying as a general thought. Willie Nkuma, thanks for that. Right, in Mpumelelo in Cape Town, go for it.
Good afternoon, Chief. I want to talk about the availability of unlicensed firearms in our country.
Yeah, big point.
To know who benefits from this, because the availability of unlicensed firearms, they increase the cost of everything. And exactly what I spoke just before the other one, talk about unemployment.
Well, you're right. So who does benefit? I mean, help me with this one. Who benefits from unlicensed firearms?
Unlicensed firearms are in speculation. All the crimes that are happening here have to do with the availability of firearms. We have the issue of extortion here in the townships. These ladies, they use firearms that are unlicensed. Without these firearms, most of the crimes will be undone. And then secondly, another point I want to raise, Intercape. Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening. Go ahead.
Intercape. They have the bus toilets. Intercape, mainline and zipliners are smelling, Chief. Can you get them to come on speed and explain to us why it's happening like this now?
Oh, my goodness. From unlicensed firearms to smelly toilets on the buses. Noted. Okay, thanks for that, in Mpumelelo. Again, I'll get Temba and Keys to just make a note and see if we can track that story down because, yeah, it should not be tolerated. Both the smelly toilets in the buses, just when I think about it, I shouldn't think about it, should I? And then the unlicensed firearms, you're right. I think, in a simple way, these criminals are less criminal when they don't have firearms. And it's so prevalent, it's so easily available that they're like Superman, or they think they are because they've got the firearms. In many ways they are because they've got firearms. So we have to remove the firearms. The unlicensed ones, I know it's licensed at the moment, it's legal to have a licensed one, but somehow we need to rethink that entire configuration completely. Okay, let's get to further comments from you. And by the way, if you're a first-time caller, I want to know who you are, right? If you're a first-time listener, I also want to know who you are. And if you're up to sending a picture of where you're listening to the show from, please do so even now. 086 000 2032 to call in. But the WhatsApp, text, or voice notes, that's where you can send a picture, 0614 104 107. If you're on the beach, I want to know that too. But you can also tweet us, right? Just tag SFM Radio and myself on the X platform. Now, we spoke a lot about bullying earlier. Here's comment.
Ashfaq, we don't have a government here. They're all dizzy calypsy. That guy you're talking to there, he's got no idea what's happening. Elijah's got no idea. No one has got an idea. They said we must not blacksome our kids at home. I blacksome me. There's no such thing that one child is gonna. And if I hear at school he was naughty, I discipline again. That's all I do. These people are less cock and confused.
Well, you got a champion laugh, I can tell you that much, even when you say discipline and blacksome them. I wonder how you discipline them and how you blacksome them is what do you actually do so that we know, right? Here's another one on punishment.
Hello, Ashraf. With regards to the discussion about corporal punishment, I think the intention of corporal punishment is that there's a consequence. There's a consequence to whatever rule you broke or whatever you've done wrong. And I fear that's what's wrong in society today. There is no consequence. It doesn't matter who you are. It's almost like we, in an episode of Jam Alley, that if you don't succeed, everybody shouts, give them another chance, and you get another chance. Consequence. We don't have consequences in this country. Peter in East London.
Peter, can't argue with you about that one. Can't argue with you at all on that one. Right, what about the African National Congress?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. South Africans have lost confidence in the ANC. Reconfiguration or not, ANC will not win back majority support in KZN and Gauteng respectively. Shoti Signolen Mafefe Limpopo. Thank you, Ashraf.
Well, you have spoken as if you know something we don't know, right? Okay. Here's another one about the ANC. Let's just get to that.
Good afternoon. Just want to respond to the caller who said nobody wants to know about SABC and then ANC. I'm in Quebec. I want to know about ANC. Have a great afternoon. Bye.
Well, point made. Got it. And as you would know, we have to reflect because the ANC and what they do is a reflection of the pulse of the nation. How do we ignore that? Don't we? Here's more thoughts. Good day, Ashraf. Let me just say, picking up. Bullying causes emotional damage, whether it's in schools or in the workplace, from Terence, right? And then another one to the caller from Flagstaff. In fact, people from the Eastern Cape vote on tribal lines. Right, there's more. Here's another call from Temba in Soweto. Temba, go for it.
How are you?
Yeah, good indeed. What's your point?
It's about Shoprite versus Hawkers.
Right, tell us.
Yeah, actually, I'm worried about Shoprite because Shoprite, they are selling what the Hawkers are selling, and they are paying a huge amount of checks for South Africa, of which for Hawkers they don't pay not a single cent, and it's very unfair. I understand. It's really not unfair because they even dart around the complexes, and they are nothing has been done to move them away from the complexes. I understand.
So what would be what is the solution for you?
They should put around the prohibition board that hawkers are not allowed around from the vicinity of the complexes, because vegetables, what they are selling, it's there in the Shoprite. Yeah, why they are selling stuff that it's sold by
ShopRite or
But I mean,
Pick n Pay.
the ShopRite have exclusivity. You see, we don't know that. Why would they have exclusivity? Like nobody else can sell what they sell.
But it's for ShopRite, and then they attach tents in the on the fences, of which I don't think they can allow any stranger to come to their places and attach his tents to sell their stuff. Just resurface and attach a tent next to your.
All right, so it needs to be more regulated. I hear you, but I don't think we can ever say that, because there's ShopRite there, nobody else can come next to them. I mean, really, it's up to you and me, ultimately, who we want to shop with, where we want to shop at as well. I mean, that's really what it is. Talking about that, here's another comment on selling.
Hi, Ashraf. I just want to ask, because there are people who are selling trotters and scop, and they work night shift. So I want to ask if the inspectors, will they be able to inspect those people? Because according to the way the government hours are being placed, 5 o'clock they are knocking off, and those people are starting to work at 6, 7. Totally from Zola.
Okay, let's see if anybody else knows more about it. They can respond. I don't know. Here's another on the ANC.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I don't think that ANC will rise again. What they are currently doing in KZN is a waste of time and resources. And using Duma or Mtolo as a scapegoat will never work. This organization is dead. Everyone can see. So they must stop flogging a dead horse. It will never, never come back to life, no matter how. Thank you very much, Peter Maila Machaba from Letswana.
And Peter, you've just upset so many people who would support that party at this time of the day when you say they will never, never come back. Nolan and George, go for it.
Hi, good evening.
Yeah.
I want to talk about human rights because I was born in 82. I was 10 when Mandela was released, 14 when he became president.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, it was hammered into us that human rights, it was human rights and responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
But the responsibilities part seems to have fallen away. Everyone knows their rights, but it's always someone else's responsibility to ensure that you access them. For example, when we talked about freedom of speech, that's a right. But the full one back then was freedom of speech as long as it does not infringe on someone else's rights. Similar with education. Education is a right, but it was the student and the parent's responsibility to ensure that the student is neat, the books taken care of, the children at school on time. Similar with the medical. Healthcare is a human right, but it's a patient's responsibility to ensure that they.
Okay, so your point is made. So are you saying that there's very little emphasis on human responsibilities, and it's a narrative we must bring up? Point taken. I actually think you are spot on. Thanks for that, Nolan in George, right? Robert in Soweto, what's your point?
Ashraf, how are you?
I'm good indeed, right? Go for it.
I'm right. I'm a new caller actually on your show.
Oh, well done.
To you.
I like that. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, my issue here, Ashraf, is the traffic department.
Yeah.
You know, it's impossible to pass an eye test at the traffic department without paying bribe.
Really?
They make you fail deliberately. I don't know anyone who has cleanly passed an eye test at the traffic department without paying the bribe. You know, they make you fail deliberately, and then they will say 100 rand.
And you did that? You did that too?
I did that because I needed the license, you see.
Oh, my goodness, yeah.
It's like the gatekeepers, actually the civil servants, are failing us as the gatekeepers who provide service to us, the greater public. Because for you to be serviced, you have to produce something. Otherwise, they just make you fail.
Yeah, sure. I tell you what, we're out of time, but you maybe tell us more about it. I'm going to give you a number to Keys. Let's see if we can follow up on that story, okay? It is important. Thank you for that, right? We've got maybe two more messages I can squeeze in, right?
Good morning, Ashraf. I think before we think of the idea of advising
the Department of Basic Education in regard to corporal punishment, we need to ask the question, did they ever ask for advice before it was legislated? And if not, then what's the point of trying to advise them, because they were never advised before, or they didn't consult anyone before. So that's just my thinking.
Okay, here's the last one I'm going to play on KZN.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. The voice of the young lady from KZN, who her mother was washed away by water. I think it's yesterday or early in the morning today. Her voice is coming back to my ears repeatedly. It is repeating in my ears. I'm hearing a voice here playing. I hope she's gonna be alright. Oh, it's painful. It is painful. Let us pray for her. Notorious Mabilana in Skagula village.
Oh, thank you. I must say, I heard that it was a package done by Jade Lee from the SABC, and it was played on TV as well on radio on Sakina show. And I was telling Keys when I came here, I said, I promise you exactly what you said. That voice and the child and the absolute fear and helplessness about losing a mother. It was terrible. It was just terrible, terrible, terrible. Because you see, that's the reality. And at the end of the day, it's all about human beings and how we feel, isn't it? So let's leave it at that. That's the show. That's the National Pulse. We'll do it again tomorrow. Thank you for listening. Here's Greg House.
Thank you again, Ashraf. Assistance for KZN storm victims and police to fast-track the use of body cameras. Good evening. The Human Settlements Minister, Thembi Simelane, has directed a team of officials responsible for emergency housing to speed up the process of assisting flood-affected households in KwaZulu-Natal. Heavy overnight rains in the province led to 6 bodies being recovered after they washed away in Lamontville and Chatsworth, south of Durban. In a statement, the minister says a technical assessment will be accompanied with beneficiary registration. She says this will then inform possible solutions such as rebuilding